From downtown, this is Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam, and you're listening to Nintendomain Podcast. Boom shakalaka!
This week on Nintendomain, we have Chis Totten here to talk to us about Kudzu, which is out now on Nintendo Switch, and the Wii U and the 3DS are officially dead now. R.I.P.
Ravens, squirrels, elk, bees, lizards, mountain goats, big bunny.
Still didn't beat Ori, sorry.
Disappointment. Welcome to Nintendomain Podcast, episode 417, your place to hear Nintendo fans talk to Game Boy game developers and other things this week, and we are your hosts. I'm Trey, better late than never, Johnson.
I'm Jereme, living in a van down by the mountains, Mikowski.
I'm John, liar knitter.
And this week we have a special guest.
Chis Totten.
You need a middle name. Chris, thanks so much for being here. You're the developer of Kudzu, which is a game that's on Switch now, but it's a Game Boy game, right? Like you made a physical cartridge for it, right?
Yeah, actually, if it wouldn't be awkward, since we're on camera for the Patreon version,
Sure.
I don't want to reach up to my shelf above my desk, but yes, I even have it right in front of me. But yeah, we did a physical edition for Game Boy. It was created with an engine called GB Studio, which is a really cool and popular engine for creating Game Boy games that's been really taking off. And a lot of people have actually learned game development for the first time with it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So it was basically brought to Switch through 8-Bit Legit, right? Like we're friends with them through Retrotainment and all that, and they let us know about it, and we got a code and all that. But I just found it interesting because most of the things that they do is normally like NES games, and this was the first Game Boy one that we've seen, and just seeing that on its own, it made me really excited about it. And it's $4.99. It's super cheap. It's available now on Nintendo Switch. You can find it on the eShop and all that. I've been playing through it. I'm a few hours into it. I just got to the third dungeon in there, the haunted house type dungeon, which I really like. I really like how unique the dungeons are and all that in there, and I also like how you don't really know you're in a dungeon until you're already there, which kind of reminds me of kind of Twilight Princess sort of did that, and even Okami even did that. I don't know if Kudzu has been compared to Okami and Twilight Princess yet, but I had I had vibes of that when I was playing it. So it's
amazing. I love those games.
Yeah, it's been very very cool. I don't know. Would you like to talk to us about your inspiration for Kudzu, or what your journey was before you got to it?
Sure. So back in 2005, a lot of my stories and my background center around the fact that I went to architecture school. I've actually written a book on architecture and game design and have done a bunch of stuff with that. But so I was in architecture school, and the university I went to, which is Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C., they just acquired, at the time, some new land, right across the street from the school, that was just this wild field, right? So our architecture program decided, hey, that would be a cool site for the junior level projects. And so we all went out there. We weren't actually going to build them, but we're just going to take pictures and take topography and all that other fun stuff, and then build something that would be based on the site. And the idea was that we were supposed to build a scholars retreat, someplace for some professor to go chill out and do research in a quiet environment. So we go out there and we find this field of what a bunch of us kids from I'm from Ohio, We a bunch of people from like Pennsylvania and New Jersey and New York, all of us were like, oh, that's cool, like Ivy covering like all of this stuff, and like it was covering trees. And if you've never seen Kudzu cover, spoiler alert, it's Kudzu. But if you've never seen it cover stuff, it's like if you put a green sheet over, like if you set up a bunch of like stuff on your table and like put a green sheet over it, how it'll just like drape over things. It did that. And it's like kind of a weird liminal looking thing, but it's beautiful at the same time. So we're like, oh, that's so neat. Let's make all our projects about it. So I had a porch that extended into it. Friends of mine cut like hedge mazes into it, really went all for it, except this one friend of ours who I later lived with. He was the only one in our group that didn't do it. And so that's very important for what I'm about to say. So when you finish projects in architecture school, you have a jury at the end. So like you get up and you pin your stuff to the wall and you make a little model and you like show the model to people and they like tell you, they give you tons of feedback and stuff like that. So, and usually they bring in like some external person. Our external person was the assistant dean of the program. And so I was first. I give my whole spiel and I show the model, I show the drawings, I show the pictures of this field and everything. And our assistant dean, who I'm still friends with, by the way, goes, "That's not ivy. That's kudzu. It's an invasive plant that grows over like a foot a day and covers other plants around it, blocking out their sunlight and oxygen. So I have to ask you, because you made this a central aspect of your design, is murder important to you?" And I, like 20-year-old me, I'm like, and everybody else in my group had gone white because they like, I just had a little like porch that went out into a little bit. Like, again, they had like mazes and stuff. And they're freaking out, except my one buddy who like didn't use it, and he's like trying to hold back laughter, right? So my teacher, and I will never forget this because like I do this with my students. If somebody's kind of like giving them really harsh feedback, where I'm like, okay, this one's a little unfair, I will do this too. He kind of reaches around because he's like sitting behind the assistant dean and goes, "So we didn't know that, and I didn't know it either." So can we just pretend it's ivy because everybody did this? And that was like a really cool thing. And again, I'm still friends with both of these people. They're great people. So and then we just went on like it was, a normal thing. But yeah, so that's how I learned about kudzu. And after that, I was like, okay, I need to learn more about this plant. Well, I was telling my wife this story years later, and she told me about, because she grew up in Virginia. She was like, "Oh yeah, my brother used to like fight off vines in our backyard, and they weren't kudzu, they were something else. But he used to wear this like gardening outfit, with like a big bucket hat and like this blue shirt from when he worked at King's Dominion with like little stars on the collar and all this other, and he had a machete." I was like, "Hey, wouldn't it be funny if like we made a video game about Max fighting evil kudzu?"
So yeah,
and this was like, yeah, and this was like over a decade ago. So I like made a game design document, made some prototypes. They just kind of lived in a Google Drive for like years and years. And then when GB Studio came out, I saw this and was like, I really want to learn this. I loved the Game Boy. I would love to make something like that. What should I make? Because I know myself, I'm not gonna learn this engine unless I have a project in it. And this is like the reason I do and don't know engines right now is like I'm not that up to date on the Unreal Engine, and it's not because of that it's bad. It's great. It's just like I haven't been on a team that's used it in like 10 years, right? So I'm like, well, what game should I make to learn this engine? It's like, it's time to make Kudzu. So here it is.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's got such a major backstory to it, like going all the way back there.
Well, and you'll notice like that's why Truffle, the map drawer. Like that's why he's an architecture student who draws your maps.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And that's why he seems to have like a weird respect for the kudzu, because like maybe he is that student that likes its aggressive tendencies. And actually the fishing guy in the fishing minigame, I don't know if you found the fishing minigame, but the guy that introduces you to the fishing minigame, he's actually he's like an amalgam of those two professors.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of like, definitely real life inspiration in the game. I don't know if we've talked to anybody that's had like on like specific things and people and all that. And yeah, Max, for anybody who's not familiar, yeah, like you're saying, it could be compared to like Link's Awakening, sort of like it's a top down like a adventure type game, where you, like you're saying, you have the machete and you're fighting through dungeons based around, but it's all kind of based around the kudzu and how it's gotten out there. Like I said before, it kind of you don't really know you're in a dungeon until you're already in one, which I think is really cool. Like it's not enough games do that. Like there's too many where it's like, this is where the dungeon is, this is where it starts. I like how it's like, well, I guess it does do a little cutscene showing like that you going to the next place, but I thought you were just like entering a different area. When it would do that, because it does the cool like pixel art thing, and it'll show like where you go to the fields or like where you go to the garden. It like shows like the statue and all that. But yeah, it's very cool. What were you going to say, John?
I was going to say that I think, just add on to what you were saying right there. I think that for a Game Boy game, it's pretty cinematic overall. Like, I feel like you built this interesting world where I was telling my co-hosts, I think it reminds me a little bit of Pokemon in the way that in the world of Pokemon, so much is centered around Pokemon. Everybody knows about what Pokemon is and all that stuff. And I felt that kind of vibe with Kudzu as well. And I think that just makes it more interesting because, first of all, from the get go, from your title, I wasn't familiar with that word or what it meant. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. And then I turn on this game and everybody in this world is talking about Kudzu. And all right, that's interesting. Tell me more. You just like do this nice layering of this world that has a cinematic presentation. Again, very impressive for a Game Boy. It just really drew out the mystery. It made me want to step into the game even more.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the funny part about it was, because like Game Boy and retro games in general have like very limited amounts of memory, and like text can take a lot of that up. And I'm sitting there like making this, I'm like, all right, I need more story here. I need more story here. And it's like, I really hope I'm not overburdening this thing. And it was fine, but like, there's definitely parts in the game that are shorter or more direct because like, I'm probably gonna run out of memory. And I actually did run out of memory. Not out of like cartridge capacity, but I ran out of variables. Like I couldn't do any more variables, and I actually had to like cut stuff, which in the end made some of the dungeons a little tighter. Especially the garden, because the garden was even a little more sprawling. Like the first part was a little more windy and twisty. I kind of cut it down to make it fit in that way. But yeah, no, that was definitely one of the things. Now, I did choose, because like a lot of the folks in the GB Studio community, which by the way is like one of the best game dev communities like ever. They're so cool. They're so supportive of each other. Folks have been great, and they're so talented. Like honestly, I felt like I needed to get Kudzu out because I'm like, everything that's coming out is better. Oh my God. Like there are so many cool games coming out of that community. And if folks aren't paying attention to it, they absolutely should. There's like tons of GB Studio games on itch.io right now. But I'm seeing some of these really cool games come out, and you were talking about them being cinematic. They're doing like really awesome things with their opening cinematics, doing these like cool animations with like big sprites and stuff. But I like kind of wanted to keep Kudzu, like I wanted to keep the cinematics in the game world as much as I could. Like, you mentioned, yeah, I wanted to do the title cards for each dungeon. I thought that was really neat. I thought that was something that would kind of make those transitions like really cool and make you anticipate like, ooh, what's the next one going to be like? and especially because I chose level design wise, you mentioned like you don't really know you're in a dungeon until you're in a dungeon. That was on purpose because it's like Zelda and Metroid together.
Hmm.
And it was sort of like I wanted the dungeon to just kind of feel like that was just stuff that was left out there, right?
Yeah.
Like there were these things and then Kudzu happened and then, okay, now there's just like gates out there. So, I wanted the world to feel kind of like, so I put a lot of the cutscenes like in the game sprites themselves to have that sort of like, okay, ooh, now something's going to happen sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I was thinking when you were talking about like the transitions on some of the dungeons, I did like how because I don't think there's one when you get to the haunted house, right? Because they kind of trick you with that one. I mean, it's not that far into it, but it's kind of like
Okay.
it kind of reminded me of that part in Twilight Princess with the lady and the soup and all that, where you're like in the house and you
Yeah.
don't know you're in a dungeon. It's kind of like the same thing with that
Yeah.
haunted house
I
one, and I
actually,
thought it worked
that's
really
one,
well in that way, where
that's
it's
one of my
like, yeah,
favorite dungeons ever in a Zelda game is the house with the Yetis.
yeah.
Oh
Me,
yeah.
And
me
I've
too.
made that
Yeah,
soup. It's very good.
yeah.
Found a recipe for that online. It was awesome. But yeah, that's one of my favorite dungeons. And then I just really like haunted houses because you can just like throw your rules out.
Hmm.
And like the Kudzu field. So one of the fun things, and I've actually taught this with my students, because I teach at Kent State in Ohio. And so one of the things I've talked with my students about is sort of like when you build a game like this, I mean, it's a really big undertaking. This is like my little side project, but it took me like 3 years to make. And that's like with Game Boy restrictions. It makes a lot of things go faster, but it's still like a big project, right? Um, but I'm like, okay, the way you can squeeze content out of this is like set yourself a set of rules and then start to break those rules in different ways or like emphasize different rules. So like the Kudzu field is very much the dungeon that's like, okay, there's combat and combat's like this, and there's puzzles and puzzles are like that. And you get to use Kudzu to do some of the puzzles. Okay. And here's what the world structure is like. Bam. And then the garden is like, okay, let's take that and like make it bigger and windier. And then by that time, I was like, can I really do that much more with the Kudzu itself? Maybe not. But then I was like, okay, let's do two dungeons. One should just be, so the woods is really just like the deep nest. I was like, it should be dark and spooky, and there should just be like scary monsters, right? And so that's its goal. And it's like really straightforward, but it's just like fight stuff. And then the haunted house is like, let's throw all these rules out the window and just have a blast making a haunted house. And that's where I put a lot of like the tricks. There's actually some callbacks to Zelda and stuff like that in there, with some things that like, push a thing, in a hole and it goes down to the next, kind of thing. I don't want to spoil too much since you haven't gone through it yet. But yeah, I mean, that was I really loved making the haunted house, and especially like you mentioned, and without spoiling it, you don't realize it's the dungeon until like a little ways in and what's going on, and then it kind of surprises you, being like dungeon title card.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I'm a big fan of like haunted houses and games as well, and my wife is too. And like when I saw it, I was like, oh, cool. Like, maybe my wife can play it too. Like, they haven't tried it out yet, but I'm sure, be like, hey, look at this. There's a cool haunted mansion-y type thing in there. And definitely what you're saying, like a combination. Definitely, I definitely felt the combination of like Zelda and like Metroidvania as well,
Mhm.
because you have to get like right from the beginning, you see like, oh, there's one thing you can't pass because you need certain boots for it, or there's like these one things that you need the hoe for to get rid of, and like, you can see there's things that you're gonna have to get that'll get you to different places and all that right off the bat.
And also, I enjoyed the mixture of cute and creepy that you put in this game, and it's just very effective. One side makes the other all the more impressive, if you will. As it happens, I just got finished watching something on Junji Ito and why his comics are so scary.
Yeah.
And what they broke down was basically that he juxtaposes these very like beautiful images with these horrifying images. And I think that so far I wouldn't go so far as to say I've seen anything horrifying in the game. No, I'm not that far so far, but I think I've definitely seen some creepy things, like haunted house and that kind of thing. The whole idea of the Kudzu taking over,
Yeah.
in this village where the characters are kind of jokey and there's there's good humor in the writing, and it's just a good mix, and I enjoy both sides of it.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a big Junji Ito fan. It's like that is my hole. It was made for me. To reference one of his works. But yeah, no, I mean that's like I'm a big Edward Gorey fan.
Mm.
So and like my mom was a huge fan of like the Addams Family, and so reading Charles Addams' version of the Addams Family I really like a lot. So I've always had a little bit of that, like, ooh, I like creepy things. um and I watched a lot of horror movies like before I had kids. Now I'm like a total wuss with horror movies because I don't I lost my resistance to them. I gotta get that back at some point. But yeah, I've always kind of liked that mix of like cute and creepy. And for this, yeah, I wanted to do that. I wanted it to be like, this kudzu is like kind of weird.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I wanted that sense of it, but I didn't want it to go into like horror, and it doesn't get graphic.
Mm.
I wanted it to be something my kids could play. Like that's actually been, and we mentioned like briefly like my other project, Little Nemo and the Nightmare Fiends. That is very much in that vein too, where it's going to deal with like some nightmare things, but and actually, I kind of share this with the guy who created Little Nemo and Slumberland, Winsor McKay,
Mm.
who's like one of the fathers of American animation, but he has that kind of humor to him. Is like there's a few things where you're like, that's dark.
Yeah.
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 Like if you read his other dream comic, Dream of the Rarebit Fiend, it's like dark, but never. I mean, it's like racist and bad in those ways because it was in
Yeah.
1905.
Sure.
So we're staying away from that stuff. But it's like there's stuff in there where you're like, oh, that's really funny, and that's really like morbid, but in again like eventually the Edward Gorey way. And I that balance is a lot of fun to play with.
Definitely. One thing I want to say before I forget about it, what I think is really cool is that the kudzu has taken over so much that you use it as a mechanic to help you get through the dungeons as well. Like I thought that was really cool, where there's certain switches that are like covered in kudzu, and you have to kind of there's like a puzzling mechanic to it where you have to like get one to reach out and grab it and switch it for you. Like I think that was really cool. And in some of the later levels, the enemies do it as well. Like they'll switch it. So it has this cool like mechanic that I've never really seen in other games like this.
Well, so that was funny because like I mentioned I'd made a bunch of prototypes, and those prototypes were just in like Construct 2 and like other computer engines, right? And just engine on PC. And once upon a time, Kudzu was going to have just like if there was dirt, Kudzu could grow on it. It would just like spread. And I had all these ideas of like, maybe you have to like some of the puzzles are like it's just a race to get to the door before the kudzu takes it over, and then you have to, and that you couldn't do that on Game Boy. You can't. I mean, you can do it if you start getting into the code, but I'm not a programmer. I'm mainly a designer and artist, so GB Studio's like no code or like visual scripting interface is like perfect for me, but to dive in and you can do some stuff by like changing background tiles, but that's very different than what it's doing with sprites. So I had to like there was a point where I was like, can I even make this game as I thought at all in this engine? And I really had to tweak the way that I thought about how it would work. But yeah, it grew into this like much more set up like defined puzzles. And yeah, like the spirit of it though is still really there. And that took a lot of design work, but it was really satisfying to get that down. But that's also why I said I was like, I can see where there might be like an expiration on this in the game, and that's kind of why at one point it switches to like, it'll bring in some Sokoban puzzles, like block pushing puzzles, but I tried to use them in different creative ways, and then maybe mix them with some of the Kudzu puzzles. So, have them kind of work together. And then at one point, one of the ones that I'm really excited about, my favorite upgrade is the rake. And I'm going to spoil this for you, but we're on the podcast and I want to talk about the rake.
Go for it.
But like that one is kind of fun because there's multiple uses. You can attack piles of leaves and that pushes the piles of leaves, and you push the piles of leaves into started piles of leaves. So it's kind of like you're finishing somebody's like previously started and left behind like job raking leaves. But those leaves, once you put them all together, it will make either like a bridge or a ramp or something. It'll basically open up a path, right? So that's been a lot of fun. It's still a Sokoban puzzle, but it's just framed in a really different way. And then the other one that I did with it was sometimes you'll encounter a little Zen garden, and there'll be these tiles, and if you attack the tiles, it'll like switch the pattern on the Zen garden. And then when you get the pattern to be complete, it's like, the energy created by, a completed Zen garden will open something or something like that. So that was a lot of fun to play around with that upgrade because it offered so many possibilities based on just like the idea of raking stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk about gardening in the game, so it's like, and obviously, yeah, as you're saying, with the things you pick up, that goes with it, like because you get the hoe, and then you get the and then like you're saying, you get a rake, and you have the machete too, and it's like it all kind of goes around gardening, and then a lot of the characters mention gardening in it multiple times.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of like the world, how they're all talking about Kudzu, they're all talking about stuff. I like the idea of anime worlds where it's like all of our society is based around fidget spinners. There was a viral video a few years ago and fidget spinners were big where there was like anime with fidget spinners or something. So yeah, it was like I love those worlds. I'm like they wow, that's amazing. So I was like, well, I like, and I'm an academic, so I like this idea. Like maybe it's not the world is about gardening, but maybe you're just like among gardeners and they're all super obsessed. And that's why I don't know if you've like read through the instruction booklet yet, but that's why like in the game, all the money is mushrooms.
Oh yeah, I thought that was cool. I did look through the instruction booklet somewhat, and I kind of read over some stuff in the press kit as well. But yeah, when I was first getting the mushrooms and goats, I'm like, what is this all about? But yeah, you figure out that it's a currency, which is cool. And the goats is kind of I'm imagining is like to unlock a secret area or whatever, because they'll help you eat the kudzu later. Like you have to collect them in each place.
That was my little nod to like Hollow Knight's caterpillar quest and like the secret seashells and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, with the mushrooms in the instruction book, it specifically says it's not that money does not exist in this world. It's just that everybody around you is really into mycology. Because I'm like, I like this idea that it's just like a little enclave of nerds. And that's why the one lady is like, you can talk to her in the town at the beginning, and she kind of like, she's the lore dump, where she's like, this is what we're doing out here, but she frames it as like, I'm going to go present a paper at this conference about our work. So help me practice my talk. And then it's the lore dump, which is totally something like, an academic would do. And then later on, when, the word gets out in the town that like the master gardener is gone, she's like, oh yeah, no, that's way more new and like fresh. So I've switched all of my research to be about this. Which is like a thing I've seen people do where they're like, okay, everything I was doing, it's not popular anymore. The new popular thing is this. So this is what I do now. And I'm like, and I've met people like that. And like, so I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that'd be a fun character to put in this like little, just over hyper fixated group of people that are like really into garden and into plants. But again, because you don't see anything else, that's the little world you're in, right? So that was a lot of fun. Like you mentioned the writing. It was a lot of fun to write those people.
I like that everybody is so into gardening, and it's like, to me, I don't know. I guess I like, we just had the eclipse, right?
Yeah.
2 days ago, as of today, right? And I think that's something that brought out the nerd in a lot of people, even a lot of people who didn't know they would be interested in such a thing. Maybe it sparked something there. But you saw prominent scientists take the center stage on TV and go into the eclipse, and bring out the magic of this whole big event that we were all experiencing, right? And so I just like I kind of picture, like, in your game, this is like an enclave not just of nerds, but specifically scientists, and like through the lens of gardening, you're presenting how great it is to be enthusiastic about science. And I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, no, and I wanted them to be these like very earnest people. Like everybody in the game is like really into the thing they're really into. Like Pinecone wants a pen pal.
Oh yeah, I found Pinecone. Yeah, with the two of them in the town. Yeah, they were cute.
Yeah, Kiki and Kiki just wants Pinecone to be happy, right? And then then you meet Butter and Nut Squash at some point. Sorry, again, spoilers.
That's fine.
But like there are other characters who like want pen pals, and you're like, ah.
Yeah, I figured. I mean, when they said that they wanted a pen pal, I was like, well, I'm sure there's somebody I got to meet that also wants one, and that's kind of its own like sort of side quest thing, is what I gathered from it.
Yeah, and like Kiki and Pinecone are my cats, so and like they're downstairs for like nighttime couch time. Otherwise, I'd be like, and here's Pinecone. But yeah, they were a lot of fun to put in the game, and just like little elements like that. But yeah, everybody in the game is just like really excited to be doing the thing that they're doing. And that made it a lot of fun to write, is like just everybody's just really, really just happy to be there.
Yeah, I thought I don't know if it's necessarily the pacing, or I don't know. I liked how it, like, everything kind of makes sense. It's like it starts off as like, oh, bring the tea to Dr. Zoen, but then Dr. Zoen's gone, and you have to find Dr. Zoen, and then you find another thing that leads to another thing to another thing. A lot of times in games, you get stuck because you don't know like what connects one thing to another. And I thought it was pretty smooth, like as it kind of told you where to go and that sort of thing. I felt like it was, it's not like you're saving the world. You're just trying to find this one doctor guy, but you find all this other stuff around it. I kind of like
and
that.
like
Seems like there's a purpose to it, to your journey.
Right, and it kind of escalates from there, right? So like, you start and you got to take Zoe and his tea, and Barry is like, "Oh man, something's wrong," and you're like, and then it's like, I'm out of tea, and it's like, so you like march over the tea, and then it's like, wait, he's not here. Why is he not here?
Yeah.
And then like, there's clearly something going on, but he won't tell you what it is in the journal, but he knows you're reading his journal because he's like, don't follow me. But you're in a video game, so you're like, oh, I gotta follow him. And then, yeah, like, so then, you're on this mission, and you have that first dungeon that lays out the rules of the world, and you think you kind of have an idea of like, okay, I'm gonna rescue this guy. And then you get to the end of it, and then it's like, wait, why is there this weird little kid?
Oh yeah, the kid. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so you like go and you're like, oh, there's a weird little kid. Why is there a weird little kid? And she kind of went that way. Well, what's that way? Oh, there's a gate, and then it kind of like it goes from there, and then you go get the key, and but then the key's like, why is there this picture of our camp, but the camp is from like 1893? And it's just sort of like it started throwing you stuff, and kind of one article about it called it like a cozy catastrophe. I'm like, yeah, that's it. It's like I wanted to feel really cozy, and then I just wanted like a snowball to start rolling downhill, and it to get like bigger and bigger and bigger. And it does get, I don't want to spoil it for you, but I definitely like let it get off the rails a little bit, but by then you're like I'm in, let's do this.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a video game. Let it be a video game, right?
Yeah.
It needs to. I think it needs to go off the rails at some point, definitely.
So I'm curious about your method of designing puzzles. Like I'm always curious. So when I play a great puzzle focused game, like do you? I guess it's sort of the same question as like when for music, people ask like, do you write the lyrics first or do you write the song first, or do you like plan out the grand vision of the game first, or do you have like uh you say I'm gonna go come up with 50 puzzles and then see how they fit together?
So I so there's a little bit of improvisation that totally happened with it. But there's also just like what I tend to do. So Mark Brown, the game designer and the YouTuber, has this lovely set of videos called Boss Keys. So his channel is called Game Maker's Toolkit. If
I've seen it,
anyone,
yeah.
yeah. So Game Maker's Toolkit is amazing, and he has this series of videos called Boss Keys, and I've like watched all of them. But so like, okay, there it is. Uh, so on Boss Keys, let me see if I can get it to focus. No, it's misbehaving. Um, anyway, in my notebook here, wait, which page is it? There it is. In my notebook, and again, it's kind of
It's always
I
hard
tried
to.
to make like a boss key diagram.
Hmm.
You can kind of see it now.
Mhm.
So I made a boss key diagram and it's like sort of this abstracted map. And again, if you go watch, especially like the ones like the Oracle of Seasons, the Oracle games,
Mhm.
and later in the Zelda series of boss keys, like he goes over this like pretty extensively. But I try to make that, and what that helps with is sort of laying the groundwork of like, okay, this dungeon is about machete locks or uh rocky dirt that you got to get rid of with the garden hoe, or
Mhm.
like block pushing puzzles or something like that. And you can kind of start to lay out like, okay, I think I'm going to have this explorable space, and then the end of that explorable space is that you have to hit two switches or that you have to get the machete, but you have this little space to wander around and it's going to be gated, and then you got to get through that gate somehow. And then you have the next explorable space, and then what's that going to be gated by? So I try to get like the rhythm and the general like layout of, not layout like I have the rooms laid out, but just sort of the sort of like you're going to see three puzzles and then it's going to open the next area or something like that, and get a sense of like what feels good pacing wise. And then I just like started drawing rooms, not even drawing like rooms that are like this is going to be room 3. I was just like, here's an idea for a puzzle. And with Game Boy, now one of the things that I've actually thought about like submitting a GDC talk about this, like for the
Heck
Game
yeah.
Developers Conference Level Design Summit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
Go for it.
because that was like that was one of the biggest things I got to practice with a retro game, is that, when you do a 3D level, you're so used to like, oh, there's this large expansive world and space and all this other stuff. The Game Boy game made me be like, you have 160 by 144 pixels. You have like, what is it? Like 18 by 20 tiles or something like that, 8 by 8 tiles or um and well, no, I think it's about that. But you only have so many like tiles X and Y to work with. And that was like, okay, all of the information on how to do this. I mean, if you're going single screen, which I did for most of it, it saves memory. But you know, if you stick to that, your puzzle has to be legible within that little space. And that's really good, because it's, if you extrapolate that up to a 3D game, it's like, well, what's my eye full? What's my screen full communicating to me? So that was a really good lesson in level design. But, with the puzzles, I would just like make out a grid of that many tiles by that many tiles on my graph paper, and then just start like drawing rooms, and then be like, oh, that seems like that one's kind of hard. That might be for later. That one's kind of easy seeming. That's going to be earlier. And then I'd actually build it and be like, oh, okay, no, it needs changing around because this will never work. But, you know, that sketching a bunch of ideas and then prototyping them was a really good way to get a lot of content done, and sketching them made it easy to just like, let's generate a bunch of ideas, and then that can become like a bunch of content. Yeah. So
Do you find your like architectural know-how, or does that help you in game design? I mean, seems like kind of an obvious question, but do you approach it like you're
no, I mean that's, you say it's an obvious question, but that was actually like one of the things that I think I was surprised that, like, when years ago there was a lot of people talking about like, I'd really like to know more about architecture because I think that would help for level design, and that I was around those conversations. I was like, I know about architecture.
Mhm.
You know, so I was just like, here's everything that my thesis in grad school was on game design because I started doing it as a hobby. So I was like, this is kind of like architecture. What if I married the two? And then people liked that, so I kept doing it. But yeah, in terms of just like that rigor and like drawing and sketching, that's something we're trained in, and I've seen a lot of game designers are not necessarily trained in it. They'll, and I think there's a reason to go in and do like get into the software and start prototyping, but I think you can also just start to, once you're in software, then you're like fighting Unreal and Unreal things. You're like, oh, I can't, my lighting won't render right, so I can't, you get distracted by some of that stuff. I think a process of a few steps before that are really quick and disposable, again, like the paper prototype, like a sketch, that was something that architecture helped me with. Well, paper prototyping is also of game design, but like the sketching process I think has been really good. And then yeah, just like thinking of it in terms of like viewpoints and things like that. That's, sightlines are, again, stuff that level designers talk about all the time, but you also have like hundreds of years of knowledge accumulated about like how to do that in like a church, right?
Mhm.
With something like architecture. So I pull from that a lot.
What was it that brought you from architecture to game design?
So around the time of the Kudzu incident, um, like soon after, I would say, a buddy of mine was like, hey, or it might be before. Well, anyway, he went to computer science school at our university, and we were on the swim team together. And he was like, hey, you know all these art programs, and I know how to code. Why don't we make games together? And I was like, yeah, which is, famous last words for a lot of people. And we didn't really make anything that big. Like, I think the only thing that we managed to actually finish was like a Tetris clone, like a not great Tetris clone, which I found on my computer, on like an old hard drive a few months ago. And I was like, oh my God, it's Blockhead. Blast from the past. But we did that, and I kind of caught the bug a little bit. And that was around the time that a bunch of like academic books on game design were starting to come out, and like rules of play, and things like that. And I was really intrigued because I picked up these books, um, and started reading them because I was interested in game design. And I was like, wow, this is talking about games, this like thing that I've enjoyed since I was a kid, but it's talking about them in the same terminology that my architecture books are talking about building designs. And that was a really cool revelation that I'm like, okay, wait, they're even bringing in stuff from architects to talk about games, to use to talk about games. And that was kind of a neat thing to see those things come together. And that's actually really still, like, to this day, influenced a lot of my work, because now it's like, well, what else can I bring in? Which is like a very liberal artsy mindset, but it's like, let's do the arts, let's do art history, let's do literature. In terms of making the career transition, I went, my grad degree had a concentration of digital media. And when I got out of school, after grad school, because in architecture you have to go to grad school to get your license. You have to go to grad school, then basically like apprentice at a firm, and then build up enough points to take the exam that lets you like legally be an architect, so that you can like hopefully not make buildings that fall down. So I got out of school during the recession of like 2008, 2009, and nobody was building anything. And the job I ended up eventually getting was to teach 3D software at a school that had a games program, and that was it. It was like, oh, I'm doing this now. So I just started going to IGDA meetings and working on projects with people, and here I am.
Nice. Now, you said earlier that like while you were writing the story, like there ended up being like limitations, or you kind of ran out of space with the Game Boy. Did that come to like audio as well? Because I noticed that some like sound effects were kind of missing in the game, like when you like swipe the machete or attack enemies and stuff like that. There's not sound for that. I wondered if that came from just complexities from trying to like develop a Game Boy game.
So that actually came from so I was using GB Studio. Now I started looking at GB Studio for Kudzu around when 1.0 was out. And 1.0 was basically like it was a tool for making the games you would make are like adventure games that take place in Pokemon towns. And I don't say that as a bad thing, that was just like what it did. But it didn't really do collision-based gameplay. So you couldn't have like enemies that you could hit or that could hit you. So if you look at some of the older games in the GB Studio scene, you kind of notice like more quest dialogue style gameplay, right? So that was, but 2.0 was just about to come out. So I kind of like waited a week or a few weeks or so. I think it was when I really sat down with it, it was like only maybe like a week or two away. So I'd had it on my hard drive forever trying to figure out what to make with it. So then 2.0 came out and I was like, okay, this is it. I started building my prototypes and I got up, I would always update when a new update came out. And so I ended up using 2.5. Now that's actually technically a beta. And one of the things it couldn't do, it didn't really have a lot of, is sound effects. Because the sound effect system in 2.5 beta is really just like you can do like a beep, a crash, or a buzz. And that's why you only occasionally hear like a ksh in the game as a sound effect. It's because like, now people have done really amazing things. Like the guys at Spacebot, they kind of mastered the little beep command, so they made little tunes out of it. But I'm kind of music stupid, so it was like, okay, well, let's just have like a really good soundtrack, and that's when we worked with Brendan Ellis, City Fires. He worked on like 20XDX and Cat Lateral Damage and all these other awesome games.
Yeah, the music's good.
Yeah, no, I love all the music. I really like that the house theme, like the haunted house theme.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That one's my favorite. But you go, so yeah, that command wasn't as developed yet. And then 3.0 came out after I finished the garden. And that actually had a bunch of enhancements in it, including big sprites, which like would have absolutely been amazing to have. And then again, a more robust sound effect library, and the ability to like sample sound effects. But by then it was like the game could not have been ported.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, this is the version it's in. But yeah, that put some additional limitations on it. But yeah, the sound effects are unfortunately one of the aspects of that. So but you kind of roll with those punches too in game development.
Oh, sure. I was just curious, like what, if it was, because I know there's sometimes like limitations and all that, like with developing with older hardware and all that sort of thing. Is the soundtrack available to purchase anywhere, by the way? Like, can you get it from SoundCloud or anything like that?
I don't know. I know that Megacat put out a vinyl along with the Kickstarter. I don't know if there is a purchasable version.
Oh, okay. Because whenever we do these interviews, I always like to buy the soundtrack, and then I'll like put it in the show, like for all our like intro, outro, and like breaks and all that stuff. And normally I try to get it from the artist if I can. I don't know if you can always like email me about it later and all that.
Let me. I'm loading up the City Fires website right now. Also, I always with Brendan's and Brandon's, I always get mixed up. It is Brandon Ellis. Sorry, Brandon. But yeah, no, Brandon's awesome. Like he was such a great person to work with. He has like super professional, like just I mean, obviously the music quality has been amazing. Super chill guy, super nice guy. Yeah, and again, like when they told me, oh, we can get the guy that did like 20XDX, I was like, oh, if people haven't played it, it's sort of like a rogue like ish like Mega Man X game. And he did some amazing work for it.
Nice. Like I said, we don't have to look for it right now. I'm always curious because I like to, if I can, try to throw something to the artist if I can, for
I was also kind of curious
for
too.
the
I was like,
soundtracks and all that.
for that.
I was gonna say if you didn't have anything else to say about Kudzu, we should talk about the Little Nemo thing for a bit because I saw that you got an award for like most anticipated for that.
We were nominated.
Or nominated. Yeah.
Yeah. Which like again, still among that field, I was like, wow, that's us next to like World of Goo 2. Neat.
Yeah.
I love Goo.
Oh yeah, World of Goo. Yeah, well, I'm super excited about World of Goo, and World of Goo 1 played the crap out of it on a Wii. The proper way to play it.
I've actually been playing it
Little
recently.
creepiness.
Yeah.
Too. I
Oh yeah,
loved it.
no, World of Goo, like kind of the same, like what you were saying, same sort of thing where it's cutesy, but everything is dying, and you know that the end of the world is coming, and it happens in the game. Like that's what I loved about that game so much is
Yeah.
it has its cutesiness, but it's so dark. It has so much darkness to it.
All their games are
Soundtrack
like
was
that.
amazing too. I have that. I got the vinyl for that one, also for the
Yeah.
World of Goo soundtrack.
Yeah, Kyle Gabler.
Yeah. Really good.
Yeah, I think you mentioned like Little Inferno. Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. It was
Played the heck out of Little Inferno.
I think some of the songs from World of Goo were used from like a short movie they did in like film school and stuff like that originally before it was brought to the game, which I thought was really cool. But
I do love it when indie game soundtracks, because like some of them are just like spec soundtracks, get put in some other things. I was listening to like an NPR podcast once, and I'm like, what's that? That's Hyper Light Drifter. What the heck? Like NPR found Hyper Light Drifter.
nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. But yeah, tell us about the little Nemo game that you're working on, and that's coming to Switch too, right? I think I saw it hashtagged on Twitter
Yeah.
on your Twitter account.
So Little Nemo and the Nightmare Fiends is a hand animated Metroidvania adventure based on the original Little Nemo and Slumberland comic strip from 1905 by Winsor McCay. So Winsor McCay, he's a really important figure in American animation and comics. He created Gertie the Dinosaur, which is this like early animation of just like a dinosaur doing tricks and responding to a trainer, which actually would have been like a vaudeville act. Like he would have been in front of the screen, like with a whip, like commanding the movie to do stuff. And then that would have been like kind of the bit, right? So he was working at a time where Walt Disney would have seen his work as a kid. And actually, if you read Disney Animation, The Illusion of Life, like the one where they lay out formally like the principles of animation. The animators that wrote that book, two of like the Disney Nine Old Men, like the legendary Nine Old Men from the Disney studios, they actually say like, yeah, we saw Gertie as kids and we're like, we want to do that. So McKay is like a foundational person in the history of animation, who's just not more famous because then he got like caught up in just doing editorial cartoons for William Randolph Hearst for like the most of the rest of his career. He just got stuck in like bad contracts.
So do you mean he was doing like political cartoons or?
Yeah, he was doing these like gorgeous political cartoons that
because the Little Nemo ended like before, was it around 1930 or was it before that? I can't remember. I just remember being
so there were two runs of it. There
Okay.
was one from 1905 to about 1914, and that's when
Okay.
Hearst was like, "You're not doing these comics anymore. You're doing my editorial cartoons." But he still kind of maintained an animation career a little bit after that.
Okay.
until that was eventually shut down. And then he eventually got out of that contract, went back to his original newspaper where he tried to revive Nemo from 1924 to 1927.
Okay.
But yeah, the readership just kind of like fell off at that point, and then he just sort of like went back to Hearst, and then he like passed away in the early 1930s. But that kind of, and I know all this because again, academic research also is part of this thing, so I kind of rolled it into my academic research too. But yeah, so that's McKay tried to get Nemo off the ground. It was hugely popular in the early 1900s, and then just sort of fell off. But we're trying to take references because all that stuff is in the public domain. It kind of might have already been in the public domain because it wasn't like renewed, like all the stuff. But everything as of last year, like every single Nemo comic is fully in the public domain because like including the stuff from 1927. So yeah, we're taking a lot of that material, bringing in characters from it, plots from it, monsters from it, and from some of his other works. Like I mentioned, that other comic, The Dream of the Rarebit Fiend. That was basically like the one that would run in the evenings for the grown-ups, and then Little Nemo was like the Sunday morning comic for the kids. But they use a lot of the same motifs, but like the Rarebit ones are like cranked up for the grown-ups and are like creepy. But it's like, the idea that it's not the actual plot, but the vibe is like, what if one comic invaded the other? And we're kind of doing that where like nightmares are going to come into Slumberland and then, mess stuff up a little bit.
It's like a multiverse, right?
Yeah, little Winsor McKay multiverse. Like we are gonna probably throw like we're gonna put Gertie in it. Like I'm like we are putting Gertie in this game.
Hell yeah. So do you think it was animation itself that made it less popular when he tried to bring it back? Like maybe people weren't as into comic strips anymore, or is that just kind of is that just conjecture on my part?
Well, no, because it was comics were still a big thing. I just think there were different comics. Like
Okay.
there were a lot more gag comics, and I think like he was doing it in like that was when you started getting like Felix the Cat, and stuff like that. So there were a lot more gag comics and there were a lot more like cartoony characters. And Nemo is if you look at them, like they're very realistically drawn. I encourage anybody who's not, because a lot of people are like, our age are familiar with the NES game or with the movie, right? And I even have like some cells from the movie in the next room, framed that I got in like an animation sale. And people are familiar with those. They're not as familiar with McKay, but I always encourage people to go look at them because they are like looking at stained glass windows. They're like these like beautiful Art Nouveau poster things with these like gorgeous, color schemes and things like that. They're really something to look at. Again, content warning. Comics from 1905. Definitely some depictions we would not have today of underrepresented or marginalized groups. But again, that's one of the best things about public domain is we can be like, let's make this more welcoming for people. Yeah. So but again, like it's been a lot of fun to work with that universe because there are so many colorful characters to the point where like people are asking me, oh, are you remaking the NES game? It's like we don't really need to. One, we can't. We're not Capcom. But two, it's like we don't really need to because there's so much stuff here that like remember Flip? Remember the guy that walks up to you and says, by the way, my name's Flip? You can be him. He's awesome, So yeah, we're doing a lot of cool stuff with it.
You got me among the people who were most anticipating. I would have been voting for your game over World of U 2 even, just because I was such a huge fan of the NES game.
Yeah,
and I know that you're not trying to remake the game and you're doing a Metroidvania even on top of it, total different genre. But I'm so excited to see Little Nemo come back to video games.
Right. And like, it's not that we don't want to make references to it. Like, we have giant frogs and you will feed the giant frog candy. But that's kind of like that's the way we can make a nod without getting too far
Sure.
into like getting too close to the point where somebody at Capcom would be like, "Excuse me, wait a minute."
Right.
Um, you know, and yeah, I mean, that one's been in development for a while. Games like this just take a long time. And NoClip put out this really great video. If folks are interested in like the state of the game industry stuff, NoClip, the folks at that podcast and channel, put out this amazing video about like they're trying to get an indie game funded, and stuff's just like not getting funding right now. Because we almost thought we were gonna, do the Kickstarter and then get publisher funding and then be able to ramp up. Stuff's just not getting funded. Now, that being said, we've also put ourselves in a very good position where, we've done this enough where we're able to pace our development where it's going to take a little longer, but the game's coming out. Like we make sure we have updates, every month. We are always working on it. We're a small team, but it's been coming along really great. And there's, in the last it's funny with a game like that, there's always these little milestones where you sit there and you say, oh, there's our game. Oh, there's our game. Our game is there. Now it feels like our game. And even we just had another really big one where it was like, okay, now here's the game because, we have all the adventure stuff in, right? And you can do these circuits of Slumberland or of, the areas that we've built out so far where you like engage these quests, engage characters and stuff like that. And it's funny, because we're talking about Kudzu. Kudzu and Nemo are like kind of sibling games for me because some of the level design, level flow stuff that we're playing around with in Nemo, I was like, oh, let me try that on Kudzu, and then I can kind of prove it and just see if things are because Metroidvanias are really hard to build. There's like a lot of fiddly design pacing things you have to manage, right? So I would try them out in Kudzu, and then I would be like, okay, here's what we should do. And there are a bunch of adventure ideas where like a string of events can come together and then kind of pull you through a world. We're implementing all that kind of thing, with like NPC based signposting, but kind of diegetic signposting where like you use that to develop like the sort of earnestness of the world. Like we're doing all that stuff in Nemo as well. So it's been a really cool thing to see those projects evolve together. And now we have all this information from Kudzu. Now we're pulling into Nemo, and the game just keeps getting better and better and better.
Is there a? I mean, do you have like a expected release date for the little Nemo game or anything like that?
Um, so what we've done, again, I mentioned, like with the state of like the pace of development and things being the way it is with the state of the industry, what we're going to do is we're going to break it into some acts and use like an act one as an early access. But that'll be kind of like chapter one, right? Release. So that chapter one release, we have 3 of the 4 main biomes done. And so we need to build Slumberland itself. We're hoping end of this year or early next year for chapter one. That's kind of like our goal that we're pushing for. And we are actually doing a little bit of a ramp up here pretty soon to try to get that across the finish line. So, we again, it's taking us longer than we thought because of just how things are these days. But at the same time, we've managed ourselves in a way that like now we're able to in these important parts, like, okay, we actually can do this sustainably. Uh, that's the biggest thing. Games are miracles. Every game that comes out is a miracle. Like you can talk to people who have been making games for decades and they'll be like, I don't know how video games come out. Every video game is a miracle. So, yeah, we feel really good about it. and people the feedback has been wonderful. And again, like we're really happy to bring Nemo back. Like in all his forms. Like there's NES Nemo that we have bits of. There's animation Nemo that we have bits of. We even want to do like I still have to draw a few nods to that Netflix Slumberland movie. That was I like that.
Oh yeah,
The one with what's his face in there from
Jason
Jason
Momoa.
Momoa, yeah.
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 But even then, like that movie had some like really cool ideas about like, oh, this is a repressive dream. I'm like, but yeah, there's a lot of aspects of that. And again, like that's the beauty of public domain is you can kind of like bring together these again, we can't too overtly, reference Netflix's IP, but like little vague nods, like you would anything, and that'll get people excited. So
I think you were smart to make a new Nemo game because I think there's a lot of folks who are always like who played the Capcom one way back when and like, I mean, it seems like perfect fodder for a video game. Why aren't there 15 more of these in the last 30 years? And I think you're going to find that there's a lot of folks who just really want to play a new Nemo game, and I'm one of them. And that plus you're bringing in the Winsor McKay actual art style, and which is just objectively beautiful and timeless. So I think that's really cool.
when I have my students join us for our internship course, because I can have them professors can have them work on like their research projects as part of the internship course. I'm always like, hey, remember that guy that we talked about in animation theory that's like the father of American animation? He influenced Walt Disney. Well, you need to learn to draw like him. Okay, but good luck. I mean, I don't just throw them in the deep end like that. I give them like references and feedback and everything, but they're like, huh? And then they do it. And they turn out amazing things. Like, it's everybody everybody on the team loves this property, and everybody is like really bringing. I can't even say it's their A game. It's beyond their A game. I've seen people do stuff on this that I'm like, I did not know you could do that. Like, wow. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Nice. Very, very, very cool. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about Kudzu or Nemo before we go? I think we're about at the time we expected, but definitely anything else you want to say, and definitely let everybody know like where to find you on the different social media and all.
What are all the platforms they can get Kudzu on?
Yeah, right.
I think everything.
Yeah,
right?
Sure. Thanks for all the positivity and support. We've really loved it. Go check out Kudzu. It's $4.99 on the eShop. Or you can get the physical edition from Mega Cat Studios. Check out Little Nemo and the Nightmare Fiends. You can wishlist it on Steam now. Like I said, it's taking longer than we originally anticipated. We know that, but we are always churning stuff out. Go check out our Kickstarter updates. We keep on them pretty consistently, and we think people are going to be really happy with it when it comes out. You can find me at Totter87 on Twitter, and then I am also Totter87 on Blue Sky. Totter87, and all the stuff Blue Sky puts on it. See Totten87 on Instagram or on Threads. How many platforms do we have to have?
I mean, it's look up Totten87, right? Pretty much on whatever.
Yeah, Totter. Well, my college nickname, Totter.
Oh, Totter,
Yeah, Totter87. And then but I'm not on Twitter, and then you can usually find me on stuff through that. And again, Little Nemo and the Nightmare Fiends, it's on Steam, littlenemogame.com. And then, like I said, Kudzu, that's on the eShop now and on Mega Cat Studios. And it's on eShop through 8-Bit Legit.
Is it like available for Xbox or PlayStation or no?
We are talking about other platforms. I can't really announce anything, but
okay.
I mean, there's always there's always we've talked about other platforms. I can say that.
It's on Steam Deck.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, get it on Switch. It plays great on there. It's only $5. It's very cool, and it's totally worth it.
I mean, I'm even gonna I submitted a new version for an update, so an update will even be coming soon that like sands off a few things we found too. So like
okay.
We're making sure it runs as smoothly as possible.
Nice.
Yeah.
It looks great too. I mean, I have it. It's right. It's over here somewhere. I have it behind me there.
Oh,
Yeah,
I saw that. I was like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I want to put it on the background for the patrons. But yeah, no, I highly recommend it. Like I said, $4.99. Check it out. It's a super cool game. I'm definitely planning on playing through the rest of it for sure. And thank you so much for joining us and talking to us about it. And we'd love to talk to you again about Little Nemo when that comes around. If you want to come back, we'd love to have you again.
Yeah, I'd love that. Sure. Yeah. There's certainly lots I can talk about with like all the hand animation and all the different parts of that.
Which I think I know you kind of mentioned it early on, but yeah, it's a hand animated project, so
yeah,
maybe be patient, folks.
It take some time. Yeah,
it's hand animated.
Well, I have your email,
Don't
so I
give
can
them hand cramps. Let them take time.
So we got your email. We can always reach out to you later. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be incredibly busy when it gets to the release time, but it would be very cool to talk about that again whenever that is. No pressure. Whenever that happens. But yeah, thank you so much, Chris, for joining us and all that, and everybody. Check out Kudzu and check out all the links and all that stuff. And yeah, let's we'll take a break and then we'll come back and talk about what we've been playing.
Hey, you.
It's me, Mario.
Yeah, you. Subscribe to our Patreon to hear our bonus shows, which happen every month.
I'm tired.
Tired of all the big corporate podcasts spoon-feeding you the same old video game news on every single show?
Spaghetti. Ravioli.
Then expand!
With NintenDomain Expansion Pack.
It's us talking about old games that were important to us. It's us interviewing people that we meet at conventions. And heck, it's live shows from those same conventions. It's basically everything you could want that NintenDomain ever made.
Here we go!
And it's just $1 a month.
That's less than a bad indie on the eShop.
It's $12 a year, which is less than Nintendo Switch Online.
Thank you so much for subscribing to our Patreon and supporting NintenDomain.
Just go to patreon.com/NintendoMain podcast and hey, Mario, let go. Whoa! He's throwing us back to the show.
So long, Bowser.
Patreon.com/NintendoMain podcast.
Game over.
Back from the break. Hey, Jereme is here, finally, after 2 weeks of episodes. You're back now.
Yeah.
So why don't you start off the part of our show where we talk about games we got and games that we've been playing? And you could talk about your trip. I know our expansion pack was supposed to be about like video games on trips or whatever. I thought about mixing that with your thing too, but I don't know. If you want to save some of that for that, you can, but you don't have to. You could say whatever you want now. Is what I'm saying.
I could kind of like, because I mean, a lot happened, so I'll be able to be more focused later when I talk about it, probably. But my partner Shauna planned this trip for us to the Grand Canyon in her van that she pitted out to essentially be like an RV, and just really cool. She did a really great job. I helped very minimally. She did nearly all the work herself, and just made a really beautiful, functional vehicle that got us there and back. And we went to a bunch of different places along the way. The itinerary was very, very packed. She had it, kind of loose because you can't plan everything perfectly, but I would say we nailed 90% of the stuff that we wanted to do, including stuff like being up in time to see the sunset. God damn it. Being up in time to see the sunrise. I've seen the sunset many times.
Well, what you got to do is you just don't sleep, and then you stay up until the sun rises. That's how I see
it. But
that's how
working that into like traveling a lot. And
well, it depends on what time of year, right? Like when
being very active.
I remember it used to be, back when I was much more of a drinker, when we used to go to the 5 a.m. bars and we'd stay out and the sun would be out when we left the bar at 5 a.m. So it was like, okay. Depending on the time of year, it could be.
The thing about camping is you do, whether or not you like it, you do just kind of get more of a rhythm of, because you're outside so much, like you do kind of naturally get that rhythm. Where I was getting sleepy earlier, and then we were going through all these time zone changes and lots of travel, lots and lots of driving, which Shauna did most of the driving.
How much you have your windows blacked out as well, I'm sure helps with the sleeping.
Oh, right.
Because you're in the middle of everything. The sun's going to wake you up whether you want to or not.
I pull my hat over my eyes, That's what I do. I sleep well.
You guys don't have sleeping masks? I could have sent you some. We got a bunch of
I don't need it. I'll just use my hat. Thank you. I sleep in a hat, like old school dude, with the hat and the honk shoe. Anyway, I had a great time, but for the most part, I kind of unplugged, which I didn't mean to do. I brought a lot of stuff to play. I brought my 3DS. I loaded up my Switch with a bunch of games. I had, Witcher 3. I had Dredge. I had like a few. I had Tears of the Kingdom if I wanted to just go mess around on that. I had a lot of stuff, and then of course, some multiplayer stuff, Mario Party and Mario Kart if Shauna wanted to play that and stuff. But for the most part, I just didn't get around to playing video games because while we were traveling, I was like co-pilot most of the time. If like I said, I didn't drive a lot. Shauna did most of the driving, so either I'm driving or I'm co-piloting. And when I'm co-piloting, like we're making changes on the fly in the route, and there's things to look out for. I'm trying to help her look, around this giant van to make sure everything's safe, when we're like merging and all that. So it ended up just being more of an adventure of like real life. I touched grass, I touched rock, I touched sand.
Touched a lot of things. I saw pictures.
I did. I touched lots of cats and dogs for when we stayed with friends and stuff, which is great. But yeah, overall, it was just a really good, fun experience. And I would recommend it if you ever get a chance to, you could class, I wouldn't say necessarily class it up, but you could, go up a step, rent an RV or borrow an RV, or if you have the means, buy one, I guess, and just travel. And like, there's RV spots everywhere where you could just like pay $20 or $30 a night to just hook up and sleep in your RV. And then you just drive it off the next day and keep going. And yeah, I don't know about an RV, but with the van, we saved so much in lodging. Like,
oh yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I mean, good lodging is pretty expensive now.
Like the gas was expensive, but overall, probably not a whole lot more than we would have paid to fly and then rent cars to go to all the different places and stuff that we would have had to do. I think it ended up being pretty much perfect, to be honest. Like some stuff went wrong, but nothing super catastrophic. And as far as like the van never like truly broke down.
Yeah, you didn't have the it always, I don't know, seeing it's like you're on tour, you got the van, and being on tour you always have to deal with the broken van, but you didn't have
we watch
that,
Sean and I watch a lot of van lifers. She kind of got me into that, like just because it's good to know these things, kind of see what it's really like. And also, I think it, inspired her to want to do it herself, made her more confident. But they always seem to have a lot more trouble than we had. But it's okay. I'm glad we didn't. The big thing was that the battery died completely, and
Oh no.
Who knows how old it is. It came with the van when she bought it, so it probably needed to be changed. But the first night we stayed in a Buc-ee's parking lot, and when we got up in the morning, she made like a little video clip that she's going to put into her YouTube video later that was basically like, hey, Jereme and I are famously really bad at being on time to things, but we're actually only running about 5 minutes late today, whereas yesterday, the first day, we got on the road 5 hours late. So anyway, so she was kind of celebrating, and then she went to turn the key right after she recorded that, and nothing happened. It was just like, oh no. But we were right there to like a gas station parking lot. Like, I can't think of a better place to be, I guess maybe other than your house. So just had to buy a new battery. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I just had a good time. Slept on, I don't know if y'all have heard of BLM lands, like there's a whole Bureau of Land Management department. I think it's a federal department. I think.
I looked it up after you mentioned it before you
Yeah.
left. It's not Black Lives Matter land. That's the first thing I thought of.
Essentially, you could just go camp at these places for free, and it sounds. I'm not going to lie, I was a little scared because to me, it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to like, sort of like you're going to international waters where no laws apply or something like that. And I'm like, and we needed stuff with us anyway. So I had quote unquote weapons if I had needed them, which I would never in my life hope I would have to use them. But if I did, I have my cooking knives or whatever, a pipe wrench, or not pipe wrench. We had like a crescent wrench. It's fairly heavy. But anyway, just a little scared, but turns out it was so lovely. Like just these crazy, beautiful views. And most of the places we stopped would have like, like a porta john or something like that nearby. And, you didn't really have amenities other than that, but still like just these really beautiful campsites. And I'd say like 20% of them, you could actually like start a campfire because most of them were under different fire warnings and stuff because of the time of year and all that. And all that crap.
The dryness.
Yeah.
Of the almost summer or whatever.
So we weren't able to like do campfires and stuff there, but I had we had our little burner with us, and I made a bunch of food and froze it.
Did all your chicken dinners work out?
They did.
You were talking about how you'd had the freezer layers or the cooler layers, like where it was going to be.
It worked out perfectly. And we also like combined stuff. Like we combined the chicken soup and the macaroni and cheese and made this new dish that was really good. It was like cheesy chicken noodle stuff. It was really good.
Did you plan enough food, or did you?
I made too much food.
Made too much.
Oh, there you go.
The problem they have.
Did it have proper bags this time?
Yeah, proper bags.
Because when we tried, I remember you made a bunch of food for Indy, and the bags were not great, and everything got soaked.
Oh yeah, they like soaked. Yep.
Yeah, you made a bunch of
sandwiches. No, I did
when
better
we went
this
to Indy
time.
500, and they all got soaked.
Well, so one thing we do, and this was Shauna, who, this is her method and it helps that we have a deep freezer. It makes it a lot easier, but just buy like a big pack of water bottles and freeze them. And then that's your ice. And then you don't get as much, you get some condensation for sure, but you don't get like a pool of water they have to like drain and all that. So until we actually put bags of ice in it, nothing was getting soggy and everything was staying pretty sealed. And we also tried to strategically, I think I talked about that. I tried to strategically layer it in order of what we'd want, and then put like, of course, don't put the eggs on the very bottom. They get to be put up top where they belong. And so I made eggs, I made pancakes and French toast, and then other than that, mostly just heated stuff up and made sandwiches and ate potato chips. Picnic type.
Do you have a little burner or something in the
van,
or?
Yeah, we have a little burner, but I usually took it outside. You don't have to necessarily, but I'm just like anxious about potential carbon monoxide or whatever. So I would always Shauna has it set up to where there's this little tray that flips down when you open up the door, and I'd either set it on there, or we also have like a folding wooden table that you can just like pop out and just turns into a little outdoor prep space, and the burner sits there. And it works out perfectly, and you just cook your food, and then there's a whole water system in the van where you can like fill up a sink and do the dishes and stuff. So and it's all like very DIY. Like she did a great job with it. We got a toilet. I was on toilet duty. It wasn't that bad. It seems like it would be, but it really wasn't.
How do you? So, I mean, do you dump in the van, or do you wait
No.
for like
Never ever
for
number two.
John's or whatever? Like you don't have shit in there or anything like that, right?
We've joked about it, and also like
And I was saying, if you do,
You know,
how do you
there are
dispose of it? Like,
situations
do you
where
put it?
obviously
Yeah.
if you got really, really sick and it just had to happen, obviously it's going to happen. But luckily that never occurred. And Shauna joked a couple of times, like if I was going to be cleaning it, she'd joke, be like, well, if you're going to be cleaning it anyway, I might just go now and that sort of thing. And that never really happened. We kept it really clean. We changed it out every couple days and use like it's like basically the pellets they use for horses, like for like the barns horses live in. It's the same like wooden pellets. I think she got them at Farm and Fleet. They work great. Soaks up all our piss real good.
There you go.
So yeah, just a really cool thing. And like we were never like off the grid like completely that bad. Like I said, there were a couple of days where the service was really spotty, but I was really surprised some of the more remote places we stayed. Like we stayed in a national forest, the Kaibab National Forest, and we drove way back into the forest, and it was super dense and woodsy. And we found a spot way back away from everybody, and my Hulu worked fine. So we watched Hulu that night.
Did you use it on the Switch, or did you use it on your phone?
On my phone.
Yeah.
And like I said, getting the new phone was, I used it a lot. Like the phone was very
Yeah, I figured that
much
was
a part of the trip. I took a lot of
Yeah.
video. I took a lot of photos, and we watched Hulu on it.
I mean, that's like
Stuff
your
from
new
Netflix.
that's like your new thing. So I figured you'd play most
pretty much a tablet,
most of your
yeah.
games on there, or whatever.
Yeah, but I didn't even really play games. Like I said, Shauna has the Netflix account, and I totally forgot there were Netflix games, and I figured that out on accident. I don't remember how.
Yeah, there's a bunch
Maybe
of
an
them.
ad popped up or something, and I downloaded World of Goo, and yeah, I've been playing that on my phone, and it just works. Like I just got it for free, pretty much.
The Grand Theft Auto trilogy is on Netflix games.
Is it?
Yeah, like I thought about trying to play,
Yeah, I didn't look through
trying
it
to play
too
with my
much.
backbone or whatever, but it's on there. Like there's a bunch
Yeah,
of shit.
I
Like
hooked up my 8-bit-do, and it
Yeah.
worked fine. I played some Vampire Survivor on there on my phone with that.
the wrestling RPG that I played a little bit of is on like Netflix games. So if you have Netflix, you can play it for free. Like there's a bunch of stuff on there. Like Turtles is on there.
I
Like
guess
the
don't sleep on the
Shredder's
Netflix
Revenge
games if
or
you
whatever.
already have an account.
Yeah, there is a bunch of shit on there. If you have a way to play it, well, there are games on there. I've never played any of them on Netflix game, but I hear about it. Like I heard about the Grand Theft Auto being on there, and I was like, no way. And then I looked and then it was there. I was like, oh right, there it is. I mean, I actually have Grand Theft Auto 3 on my phone. I bought it a long time ago when it was really.
I think
really
I have
cheap.
it on Android, but not on iPhone.
And I was surprised that I could still use it actually, and it works with my 8-bit, or not my 8-bit. It works with my backbone, even though the app thing says that it doesn't, but it still works. It says it doesn't work with controllers, but it does. So whatever.
I was gonna ask, what was the general route that you took? What states did you go through?
Okay, so we were trying to follow Route 66, and we stuck to it for the most part, but a lot of time we'd be on an interstate by it because the roads are pretty rough at some points, especially when you get into the more remote parts of like Texas and stuff. But
Yeah.
we went down through Missouri, and then we went through Oklahoma, then we ended up in Texas, then we went to New Mexico, then we went to Arizona, then we went to Utah, then we went to Colorado, then we went to Kansas, then we came back, or we went back through Missouri again, but we just drove through it, and then we went to we finished out the trip in Marion, Illinois, which is kind of close to Carbondale,
Yeah,
where
for
the
for
SIU
Eclipse.
is.
Yeah,
For the eclipse, yeah, and got to see the eclipse. Like
100%.
the weather was
Finisher.
perfect. The weather was perfect. We were sitting in a friend's backyard, just completely, just beautiful gardens, just scenery, trees everywhere. Southern Illinois is a really pretty place. If the people weren't there, it'd be great. I'm just kidding. There's a lot of great people down there too. But I kid. But no, the people, we were hanging out with a bunch of friends and having a good time, and they played some music, and then we watched the eclipse, and everything would have been completely perfect. Like I recorded like a time lapse that turned out pretty cool, and Shauna like basically was using her phone like a field recorder because we were sort of interested in like getting some sounds of like if like the bird calls changed or like the insects, like the crickets came out, or that kind of stuff. We were really interested in
because of the
let's
darkness.
just try to
right.
Let's just try to like capture the most we can from this moment. Like we've got these computers in our pockets. Let's just use them. And in the meantime, they were just like recording something while we just got to sit back and relax and just stare at the sun, essentially. And it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And I saw the sunrise in the Grand Canyon, and I had like a pretty like I'd liken it to a spiritual experience for sure. And then the eclipse thing happened, and it was even like crazier. And that happened, in the span of 19 days, or like not even 19 days, like more like 2 weeks apart. So yeah, it was a pretty good trip.
It was pretty.
I don't know if y'all were able to look at the sun without the glasses on.
No. It'll burn your eyes out. You can't.
So you can during the totality. You can take your glasses off and look at it, and that was
if it's dark
part.
enough.
Because all of a sudden the sky, obviously the sky went dark, and you don't see any of this in my video because I was just filming. I just wanted to film like
you just filmed the grass,
change in light, yeah. But like all this, the clouds obviously like they go from being like whitish to like dark, like they're dark, and then you can't really even see them anymore. And then it wasn't so dark like the stars came out, but like there were like 3 planets that suddenly were visible. I think it was Venus and something else. I can't remember what it was. I know Venus was one of them, maybe Jupiter. But yeah, there's 2 planets that you could see in the sky, and there's this little red dot at the bottom right of the sun. And I kept saying I think it might be Mars, but it probably wasn't Mars. It was probably like a solar flare or something. But it was just, I don't know how to describe it. It was one of the coolest things. I mean, I don't know what I've seen that was cooler, to be honest, other than like things being alive. Like that's cool. Like that's miraculous. And then after that, I'd say the solar eclipse, maybe not, but it was cool.
So on your way out west, you actually took the same path that I did. So just bringing back memories of that. I remember going through Oklahoma.
When you came back from LA to Michigan?
No, when I moved from,
because where does Route 66 ends in like Venice Beach, right?
What's that?
Does it Route 66 end around Venice Beach? Or it's like a beach in Southern California.
I don't remember if it was Route 66 that I took all the way out there. I know I took it through part of the way at least. And I was not taking, the slow vacation. I was trying to get there as fast as I could.
Right.
So I can remember going through Oklahoma was a nightmare because it was we started in the morning, and then I got to Oklahoma by night, and it was just dark, punctuated by deer carcasses every 5 miles. You could just see roadkill, and it was like, let me out of this van. Let me get to the hotel. And then next day went through Texas, and Texas we went through the Panhandle, and
that's what we did too. And the roads were just like I've never seen worse roads in that than I did in that little part of Texas.
I don't remember experiencing bad roads. Like you had bumpy roads, or what do you mean?
Well, we didn't stay on the beaten path. Like we're trying to like stop at other places. Like in Texas, went to like we stayed at like a RV park in Shamrock, which I think was right off Route 66 or whatever the equivalent was. And then we went to the Cadillac Ranch, and it was getting to the Cadillac Ranch where the GPS got a little wonky, and it got really scary, and the roads didn't make any sense. Like if you want to turn left, you'd have to like go through a roundabout and then cross like a highway or something like that. Cross 2 lanes of traffic, but with like a space, or like 4 lanes of traffic, but with like a space in between where you stop. But there's only one room for like one vehicle, so you have to wait until the person in front of you gets out of that space to keep. It was really stupid. I didn't like it. lots of roundabouts, which I
hate
started to
hate
sort of
roundabouts so
understand,
much. I hate them so
so
much.
many
Yeah, I don't like
roundabouts.
roundabouts.
They're everywhere in
many
Indiana.
roundabouts.
Like they're everywhere.
They're
in
going to
fucking
be
Indiana.
everywhere.
I hate them
We
so
went through
much.
one in
Yeah.
southern Illinois. I think they're coming for us.
No, they suck. Yeah, they're all over Indiana too, northwestern Indiana. And I hate them so much. They're so annoying, and they make you. I mean, I've gotten more like car sick in my older age, I guess, but they make me extra sick. Those fucking.
So for
roundabouts.
people like
I hate
me
'em.
who often miss exits or something like that, I like it because you can just you just go around again.
Sure, yeah.
Every time I
But that's about the only benefit I see from it.
A lot of times
Otherwise,
every time I
Plus you're
encounter
You're
one, I always think
confused on like which way to go, and yeah, you're like, oh, one more time,
yeah.
maybe I'll get it this time. Yeah,
it always makes me think of that episode of The Simpsons when they go to London and Marge's like, "No, Homer, you're taking a roundabout." And it's like,
Oh yeah, and they can't get out.
They get
Yeah.
caught in, yeah. Yeah. Texas, when I was going through Texas, the only comparable experience that I had was like when I was on a cruise in the middle of the ocean. I got the exact same feeling. It just felt like a vast expanse of nothingness, like forever. It was just flat land with nothing all around. It was kind of awe-inspiring, but also
That's the way
a
Nebraska
little
felt.
scary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, you went to Nebraska?
That's
Did
what
you?
or not
So-
Nebraska. I meant Kansas this time.
I was gonna say,
Nebraska feels that way too, but Kansas
yeah.
as well.
Did you go say hi to Connor Oberst while you're in Nebraska?
No, I
he,
was in
he
Nebraska.
probably doesn't live there anymore. He didn't go to Nebraska. I didn't think you did. I didn't see it on here.
But yeah, I don't know. Like staying in staying in the van for free was great. The van, like with blankets and us sleeping together in the bed, like we didn't need to have a heater in there, even though it got down to like in the 20s a couple of nights. Like I'm kind of surprised. Like I don't know. I guess we just tested it out and it worked. But Sean had brought like those hot hands things, so like on the really cold nights we put them in our socks and stuff, and
Yeah.
that helped. Yeah, it was fine. It was, there's one night we when we were in Sedona, Shauna just rented a Spot Hero, and it's like technically illegal to camp out in Sedona. Like it's a huge tourist town, and like they're super like strict about cracking down on people not paying for the expensive hotels and stuff. So like Shauna just got a Spot Hero like right by downtown.
And you
we
just
just slept in the van. We
Wow.
just slept in it. And Shauna was like, "What are they going to do? Like, I paid for this spot. Like, yeah, they probably still would have like
well, hopefully
made a
they
deal out of it.
Yeah, they just can't tell you're in there.
But probably only if the owner or somebody that lived, because it was like basically at a parking lot of some apartments, So maybe there's a couple tenants that didn't have cars or something, so who were renting out the spaces. But we went to sleep that night, and that was one of the coldest nights because when we woke up, the whole van was like covered in snow, and it was odd sleeping in a car when it gets covered in snow. But it wasn't like a car, the way it's been converted, it didn't feel like sleeping in a car. There's a bed and
Yeah.
it collapses into a couch. I'd say more than the couch turns into bed, it's more the opposite way, definitely. And just prop my phone up against something and watch some Full House. We're on the final season of Full House. We're almost done with it.
Oh God.
Well, I don't think we're gonna watch Fuller House. Don't worry.
No. Yeah.
I think it was
Stay
more
away.
just we started watching it and both of us are just like, now we got to go. We made a drinking game out of it,
Oh, that
which
probably
is really easy to do.
probably made it more enjoyable.
Didn't one of those episodes teach you not to drink? Come on.
I think that was when I blacked out that we watched that one.
When when I was growing up, for like dinner, my mom and I, we would always watch whatever was on like Fox TV at the time, because they'd always play The Simpsons at dinner time, and we would watch The Simpsons and we'd watch whatever else was on. So they showed like reruns of Roseanne or like Full House or whatever. And it was kind of funny because Full House was the only one that my mom and I both agreed was awful, and we never wanted to watch it again. We watched like maybe, I don't remember how many episodes, but there was just one point where we turned to each other and we were like, this show is awful. And this was like when I was like, I don't know, 13 or something. We were both
I still think Roseanne is like one of the
we-
best sitcoms.
We like fuck
that
this
was
show.
ever made.
No, I mean Roseanne is, it sucks that she's all full QAnon and all that now, but I mean,
the show itself was
the show is great.
amazing.
Yeah, the show was great. But I was saying, we just couldn't get into Full House. It was just too much. Like my mom and I both decided that we hated it back in like 1990, whatever, like 96 or something like that. So I always thought that was kind of funny that we mutually
That is
was
funny.
like, F that show. But yeah.
I don't know. Sean and I just like we get on these kicks where we're like, we hate it, but we have to finish it.
Sure.
It's become so formulaic. But yeah, that's why you make the drinking game, because you're like, eventually it's just like one of the rules is when Michelle's the worst, because she does that all the time. She's just the absolute worst, like sociopathic behavior, like ruining people's lives because she thinks it's funny or whatever, like. And early seasons, DJ's the one being the sociopath, and I don't think she ever really stopped, to be honest. But and then the most grounded one is Stephanie. Like the most interesting character is Stephanie. Like as far as actors and stuff go, I'd say Jodie Sweetin's probably the most interesting out of all of them.
Well, I was going to say, I think one of the major things was Dave Coulier. That guy's probably one of the most annoying people on the fucking planet. Like, everything he says, I'm just like, please take him out and kill him. Like, please, like, get him out of the show. Like,
we kept joking that like
he's supposed to be the
comedian,
comedian, but he's fucking awful.
There's something in his contract that says like he has to be able to do his voices at least like once an episode or something, because he always does his Popeye impression and he always does like some sort of Looney Tunes thing. Yeah.
I worked on a show that was like, kind of whatever, covering like old TV stuff. And they had just worked with Dave Coulier actually. And I asked him, I was like, so what was he like? And they're like, hey, he's just as annoying as he was before. And I was like, all right, so yeah. I
mean, you ought to know from the Alanis song.
Yeah. I can't believe, I don't know why you would date that guy. I'm still upset he replaced Lorenzo Music in the Ghostbusters show.
Was that who replaced it? Because I did find out that he did.
It was Dave Coulier.
He did a lot of the voices in
Muppet
Babies.
He replaced Peter Venkman's character on the Ghostbusters cartoon. And I think a lot of the DVDs have him on there now for like most of it, which is unfortunate because Lorenzo Music was much better.
But he was a voice actor before he was on Full House, so that was totally like, I didn't realize that. I was always like, he sounds like Animal from the Muppet Babies. I remember thinking that as a kid. Now I'm like, oh, that's because he was the voice of Animal on the Muppet Babies. So yeah, that's cool. Anyway, I don't know. Like I could get more into specifics. I'll probably have things popping in my head in the future or whatever. And obviously, if we do a Patreon where I were to go into a bit more depth, but Sean and I like got a lot of footage, and she's going to start working on some video stuff, and maybe I'll help. I don't know. I should, but and then we'll have some pretty comprehensive sort of like kind of documentation of what happened. But for the most part, I'd say other than a couple of little hiccups, it was, I couldn't have envisioned a better like road trip. It was wonderful.
I'm sure the main thing was just that, like you said, just to be able to unplug from everything,
and not completely by choice, but once you're unplugged, you're unplugged and you just got to deal with it. And all of a sudden I'm walking around collecting wood again and having a great time and seeing like, how do pine cones burn? And of course the answer is pine cones burn awesome. I don't know if you've ever set a pine cone on fire, but you have to do it. It burns like a freaking candle for a second. Like it just like blazes.
I did in Tears of the
resin
Kingdom.
Or something on it.
He was in a dungeon in Tears of the Kingdom. There was a whole part of it was burning pine cones.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Also, I'll say if you're starting a campfire in anywhere in the Southwest and there's like pine needles, couldn't ask for better kindling. Just
those go.
Throw a big pile of pine needles on the ground, throw a couple logs on top, and you got yourself a campfire. You don't got to fuck with it at all. The worst time I had with the campfire was because the logs I brought with me were wet, and I was too dumb to realize that. Otherwise, the fire would have been like started way earlier. But yeah. Starting the campfire, that's like a video game in itself. You just got to get the screen booted up and then you watch what happens. And you throw stuff in there like a little inferno. I will say one video game related thing before we're done. I did post, I was just being kind of dumb on Twitter. I was posting on some other social media, partially just because, I wanted people to see like some cool pictures and, I was using my fancy new camera and stuff. But also like, we're out there camping. Like, I don't know what's going to happen out there. Like, it's just kind of like leaving sort of a trail just in case we need it, kill multiple birds with one stone. That's that whole thing. But, one of the things I did was on Twitter, I was just like, now I'm in Texas. Now I'm here. Now there. Like, that was all I was really saying on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I said I was in Arizona, and, our friend of the show, Caitlin, Splatterhouse champion of the world, said, hey, if you're going to Albuquerque, I could recommend some game stores.
Oh, cool.
I was like, I am going to Albuquerque. Please tell me, the game stores. And we had a bit of a dialogue, and she recommended this place to me, Gamers Anonymous.
Mhm.
And
Good
so I had when we stayed in Albuquerque at our friend Elle's house, I told Elle about it. Elle's like, oh yeah, that's like a mile and a half from here. We'll go there before, because Elle had like some plans of where she wanted to take us around town and stuff. She's like being a really, really good tour guide and find out some ghost stories and stuff. There's a lot of really cool ghost story stuff in Albuquerque, but we got to go to the game store first. And, I'm just like, yee. And so they had the games all packaged kind of like in these little bags hanging up. I don't know. That's sort of like, I hear that's kind of the West Coast the way that game stores are. I think I've seen it in Chicago now too. Like
They do that. No, they do that in Japan too, or in some places.
right. That's like the Japanese style, but how much was this? Oh, for $7.95, I purchased Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, I thought you already had that. I guess you did.
I
Super
don't-
Famicom.
I
Did
don't
we
have
get?
6.
Oh yeah. Well, we bought, maybe it was 5. Like I remember we both. I thought we both bought some of the Final Fantasy Super Famicom games. I know I have the Dragon Quest Super Famicom games on the cartridges. I thought we got.
I'm worried that I don't have that I already bought.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I thought we bought one of them. Maybe it was 5 or 6 or 4. Or I thought we got one at MGC. I'll have to find my copy later, and I'll send you a picture of it if that's the one. You don't have to look for it now.
I think I might have. Oh well. Now I have 2 copies of it.
Because I thought we got one of them at least. One of the
Well,
Final Fantasies.
I might have, because now that I'm thinking about it. Oh well, it was my little souvenir, and I've got the receipt and stuff. But apparently, like a friend of Caitlin's works there, but he wasn't there, so I didn't get to say hi for her or whatever. But I did, at least we were there. I wanted to buy something. That's why I chose to buy. It was a very small shop, and they had a lot of cool stuff, but we were really kind of on a well, we were already running behind and stuff, so I didn't get to hang out there for very long. But yeah, want to give a shout out to Gamers Anonymous in Phoenix, or not Phoenix, in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
I never went to Phoenix.
There was one of I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting that you said like I'm in what was it? You were in Flagstaff, Arizona for Easter, and you're like you had never been there before. And I mean that was just interesting to me because when I was a kid, we used to go to Arizona for Easter like every year because that was where my grandpa lived. So we were in
Flagstaff.
we were in Flagstaff like every year when I was like a teenager. So I was like, oh yeah, we used to go there for Easter like all the time. I mean, I'm sure I mentioned it before. Legendary to me, but that was where I got Akari Warriors 2 as an Easter present in Arizona at my grandfather's house, which is such a weird ass game that I never asked for, but I just ended up with Akari Warriors 2. And it's a weird game. If you listen to our podcast, when we go to a break and it says break time, that's from Akari Warriors 2. So that goes all the way back to Easter in Arizona. But yeah, it was a weird game.
I thought you were just joking with me because I obviously was.
No, we used
Why
to.
would I say on Twitter, I was like, I've never been in Flagstaff on Easter before.
Yeah, we used to go there all the time when I was a
And then
kid.
Trey was like, I used to always be there for Easter. And I thought you were just kind of riffing with me.
No, that's real. That's for real. No,
Dang.
yeah, we used to go to that area. Well, that's why, the Grand Canyon, we were planning to go into it, and I guess it was too expensive, or we didn't do it for whatever reason. But yeah, we would go to Arizona every year, and I mentioned, that's how I got into the Phoenix Suns and all these other things, and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, we would go there, every Easter.
Yeah, I will say going down the Grand Canyon, I'd say we did like a sixth of it, and that's like the half trail, because people do like what do they call it? Rim to rim. Like the rim to rim to rim is a lot of miles. And some people like to do that like in a day, but you can also camp down at the bottom if you want. Like you're allowed to just camp, and then you could do it like the next day. But we didn't do that because it was crazy icy, and like there were a lot of people there, and it was really steep. So we got pretty far into it. I would say we got like couple thousand feet like down. I don't know if it was thousands. It was a lot though. It felt like thousands, but we got to basically it's called Ooh-Ah Point. So if anybody wants to look that up, it's called Ooh-Ah Point. That's where we went to when we actually like hiked down into the canyon, and it was exhausting. but it was cool. We brought like a little picnic lunch and sat and ate, looked out at the canyon, and a squirrel kept running up to us trying to get us to feed it. We didn't, but we wanted to. Yeah, we saw a lot of animals. I think I said that at the top of the show. I just listed a bunch of animals. Those are all animals I saw. I got pictures of some of them, but for the most part, I just kind of got caught up in the moment and would forget, or, by the time I remembered, like the moment was gone. But I would have rather just experience it. But yeah, I got a cool picture of an elk because he was just hanging out like by one of the bus stops, just grazing in the grass. And it was like I thought it was a moose because I'd never seen an elk before. I don't think. I was like, is that a moose? But it was like a juvenile elk, and it was still probably, I'd say its shoulders were probably where my head is. It was giant.
Yikes.
It was awesome. I mean, I didn't like run up to it and try to high five it or anything, but I wasn't scared of it. I just was like in awe. And, we saw lots and lots. There's lots of ravens out there, and they're very smart. So they're always trying to like watch you. And there's signs everywhere that's like, they will steal your jewelry. They will steal, like, don't leave it out. They've been known to take valuables, and you will not get them back. So
yeah, look out. They
kind of cool. Just out of them everywhere. Yeah, they're watching you too. Like they like when I be cooking dinner, obviously that attracts animals, but the ravens would just sort of kind of like start gathering around you, look at them, and they sort of like sidestep away, like they were doing something else. Very cat-like in that regard. Like, what? I wasn't doing anything. I was just checking out this leaf over here. But you're not supposed to feed the animals. There's a reason, because they're getting domesticated,
they'll come
and
after you.
then they get killed.
Well, you remember there was that one time that I was an actor in John's movie where there was a part where I had to eat all those hot dogs in Chicago. And you remember when we got attacked by the birds because of all the hot dog pieces
seagulls
that were around? Like that was terrifying.
Unforeseen consequence of having 50 hot dogs.
To have a hot dog eating thing where we would like eat part of it and then spit it out, and then all of a sudden we were surrounded by birds everywhere. Like that's
say they're watching you.
Yeah. I was gonna say
fish for hand.
I was gonna say look out for those ravens. They might even flow DDT you if you're not paying attention. They'll just kick you and drop you down. That's my favorite wrestler from the 90s was the Raven from WCW. But can we move on and talk about what
Yeah, let's move on.
So John, what do you got? What do you got to say for this week?
Just one thing. I really didn't play any games this week. I did not fulfill my promise to beat Ori, so I won't continue to make a promise that I will beat Ori next week and the week after, but I will beat that game.
Yeah, I could see on your games played. I feel like whenever you get to the point of like where you get stuck on a game, or you like, or whatever, or you like don't know what to play, you see like the same ones come up. Like I saw you playing like Dr. Mario and like
Yep.
And the car game with the soccer that I can't remember the name of it.
Rocket League.
Rocket League. Like
yep.
those ones. You can kind of tell when John like doesn't know what to play next. You kind of just go back to the regulars. Yeah.
Yep. I got my usuals.
Yeah.
They're in a folder marked the usuals.
Did you ever play the Dr. Mario on Game Boy that came out, like the original one, or do you just play the NES one mainly?
I played both of them. So I actually had both of them back in the day, and I think that was the only instance where I had both the Game Boy and the NES version of a game, and I played them both equally. I can't say which one I played more, so I'll take my Dr. Mario anywhere, anytime, anyhow I can get it.
I did try to play Dr. Luigi on the Wii U before it died, but there was nobody online. I couldn't find somebody to play online for that one, but I did try to do that one because, you're not going to be able to ever play that anywhere else online, so I thought I'd try it. But yeah, what was the other thing you were going to say?
I was at a thrift store, and this is one thrift store in my town where I've noticed that they will have a selection of like a very small selection, like maybe 10, 15 Wii games, like every time that I go in there. And they're usually like well kept. It's not just like some random like selection of junk or whatever. Like the games are like clean, well taken care of. And so I've just made it a habit now. Every time I go downtown, stop in this one store and see what they got. So I went in, and they had it was a rule of thumb: when you see a first-party Nintendo game for under $5, you got to buy it. And so I bought Big Brain Academy Wii degree.
Is that? I didn't think Big Brain Academy was Nintendo. I thought they were just Brain Age.
No, I'm almost certain it was. I mean, you can take a look at it right now. Let me go grab it. One second.
Well, I mean, I thought it. I don't know. I just thought that was a play on. I don't know. I guess they did release it for Switch too. I don't know. I thought that was just kind of trying to. I thought that was just trying to take the Brain Age train. You know.
Let's settle this right now.
Actually, hold on. I do want to say this before I forget. This wasn't even in my notes. Speaking of Brain Age, the Wii U went down, so I was actually did a stream on Twitch and on YouTube or whatever of me playing like some of the last Wii U games, and I played Mario Maker 1, and I was like, let's look at whatever the last Mario Maker 1 games. Mario Maker levels that were added by Nintendo were on there, and one of them was a fucking Brain Age level where you got to play as the head from Brain Age, the fucking head
Dr.
guy
Kawashima.
that talks to you, and if you press up, it turns into the devil, and you see the horns and all that, and it was fucking weird. And it was just a whole bunch of blocks shaped like bodies, and you could like jump on the top of them. It's like, hey, look at me doing a pose here, and yeah, I had completely forgot about that. I played so many Mario Maker levels that I guess I forgot, and I did play Pink Yoshi and the Clown Wizard twice. Got it on video too, and downloaded it to my Wii U so I can play it without the internet. So there you go. Preservation.
Was it still fun?
Yeah. No, I think it's still fun. Yeah, no, you're right. It was published by Nintendo, Big Brain Academy. I'm looking at it on Wikipedia. I always thought it was just trying to go for the Brain Age. Because Brain Age was really big on DS, and I thought it was just a different company trying to
knock
pull
on
from
or
that.
something.
Yeah.
I think Nintendo's just trying to diversify their brain-centered games. And I haven't actually tried it yet because I still don't have my Wii or Wii U hooked up.
Yeah, you wouldn't even hook up your Wii U just to give it that last. You didn't want to hear the death cry of the death nail or whatever of the Wii U. Not even for a second to play Splatoon 1.
No, I mean I never really had any online experience with the Wii U. So why doom myself to an eternity of pain, like having one sweet taste of the fruit from the tree or whatever, So I'll be without it, and I've never known the Wii U online, and I'm fine without knowing it.
I mean, you already missed the Miiverse, so that was really the important thing of Wii U, I guess, and that went away a long, long time ago. But if that's all you have, let me talk about. There's a couple of things I wanted to mention. I mean, I'm glad you had a great time on the trip and all that, Jereme. But I was like, oh, you're not going to miss you're going to miss the end of the Wii U. Like, the NintenDomain podcast was started during the Wii U days and all that, and it was I don't know, it was kind of bittersweet to see the last of it. But I did a stream. I did a stream Sunday night, because it went out on Monday, and I know last week I said I didn't know what time it was going to be, but it was supposed to be at 6 p.m. It's supposed to be at 6 p.m. Central Time. 4 p.m. Pacific, I think is what it said. And actually, from what I saw, because Game Explain, they did like a live stream, and it went much longer. I think it went till like 9 or 10. The Wii U did. 3DS was like kaput pretty quickly at the time they said it was, but the Wii U one kept going. But I was like, all right, Saturday. I was like Saturday and Sunday night I'll do 2, and then Saturday, Jess and I, we got real drunk, and I was like, I'm not streaming. I'm way too drunk, so I didn't do it. But Sunday I did do a stream. I played Mario Maker 1. I played Splatoon 1. My big thing was like, Mario Maker. You could play all these online levels. I made sure to play Pink Yoshi and the Clown Wizards, and I was trying to play some of Jess's levels. But most of them, we actually shared an account for that one. They didn't have a different one. I didn't remember, but I tried to play like some of mine. I mentioned last week that my Pilot Wings level that I did, where you have to fly in like the Super Mario World, didn't have a world record on it, which I thought was really weird. And I did mention it on Twitter, but nobody responded to it. But I did beat it myself on the stream, so if you want to watch it on YouTube, you can see me. I did get through the level that I made myself, and it is a hard, stupid level, but I made it to the end. But I thought Jereme had got through it, because I remember you sending me a Miiverse message about having a Pilot Wings license or something like that from after completing it.
I did beat it.
Yeah, so I was like, I just found it really weird that there was no world record, and it said it only had like a 0.5% completion rate on there. So I mean, I don't know how many people played it, and supposedly they all, the 1%ers or whatever, supposedly beat it. But yeah, and I played Splatoon 1 again. Last week I said I'd jump back into it again, and I was at level 17. I made it to level 18. I leveled up for the last time on Splatoon 1. So I did that, and that was pretty cool. Splatoon 1 is weird because there's no Miiverse, so the lobby is like a ghost town. There's like no pictures above anybody. Like it's just everybody just standing there and they're not moving, and it's so weird. But yeah, it was fun. But the main thing, I got up, we made sure to get up and watch the eclipse and all that stuff. And I had to take one of our cats to the doctor early on Monday. So I was up, and then I took him to the doctor, and then came back, and then I took a nap, and I wanted to make sure that I'd be up for the eclipse and all that stuff. And I slept like till 1 or something. I wanted to eat or whatever. Regardless, we saw the eclipse, and once the eclipse was done, I was like, all right, well, maybe I can stream some more Wii U stuff. But I didn't stream it, but I did have like a very cool experience on the Wii U for the last time before it went dead, and that was because I played Monster Hunter 3 or Monster Hunter Tri. And the reason that I wanted to play that game is because Monster Hunter Tri is now officially dead. Because Monster Hunter Tri was originally released for the Wii. The Wii internet is gone. And then it was released for the Wii U and the 3DS, where you could kind of like move your save back and forth. And I remember getting this game for really cheap on Wii U for like $5 or $6. I think it was on sale. Might have been $7. With like an eShop card that I got for Christmas or something like that. And this was, before I had ever learned about Monster Hunter and how cool Monster Hunter was and all that. This was pre Monster Hunter Rise. But I had friends who talked about it a lot and said it was really, really good. And I never really got to play it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to play Monster Hunter 3. I'm going to play Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate Multiplayer before the Wii U goes under. And what's cool is because Monster Hunter's Monster Hunter, they never had Miiverse, so you could still actually chat to the people you were playing Monster Hunter with. So you could actually talk to the people who are with you through chat, which you can type in on the Wii U controller and all that. And when I found out later is that you could have voice chatted as well. Like I was talking to Shake a couple days ago, and he said that you could have actually voice chatted through Monster Hunter 3 on Wii U as well. And I was like, oh fuck, I didn't even know, because I was just trying to
speak?
Yeah, well, no, not. I mean, well. No, I mean the Wii U controller has a headphone jack on it, and you can actually talk through there. I did it, I did it on a Mario Kart 8, the original, the actual Mario Kart 8 that came out like 10 years ago. You used to be able to voice chat in the lobby to your friends, and if you had like an Apple, headset that had a microphone or whatever on it, you could plug it into the Wii U, and you could use that as your headset, and you could talk to people through there. So
I remember one of the when they were before the Wii U came out, and one of the videos they revealed somewhere where they were showing it. It was like somebody had questions about the game, so they pull out their Wii U gamepad, they sit it down, they have a voice chat where they're just talking back and forth.
Yeah, you could call people.
Can you help me beat this game?
Yeah, but we actually, when Jess and I first started dating, we tried calling Jess's brother on the Wii U because he had one too. And we never got it to work. But supposedly, you could do like a conference call thing with the Wii U controller because it had a camera on it and all that. And we never got it to work. But it was just pretty cool. To have in the last life of the Wii U, I finally got to experience Monster Hunter 3 multiplayer, and everybody was really fucking cool. I was the one who was level 1, and everybody's just you pick whatever you want. We're all decked out with our fucking insane Monster Hunter gear or whatever. They're like, you play whatever you want, and we'll just play with you. And everybody was all super nice, and they're like, well, hopefully we'll see you on the next Monster Hunter. Hopefully we'll see you on the other thing. And they sent me friend requests after we played it, even though I can't ever look at that again apparently without the internet. But it was really cool. It was oh. Monster Hunter 3 was this amazing game that I had this whole time that I didn't even know about, and now I do, and I had it for 2 hours, and now it's gone. But it was a really cool experience. It was you could, we were chatting. There was a chat. There's chat in Monster Hunter 3. We were actually chatting back and forth, and we got to. I basically did enough because I'm like I said, I'm level 1, so I basically did just regular level 1 missions, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna try to play some other stuff. And then I was like, oh no, wait, hold on, there's an urgent mission. We got to do the urgent mission. So I was like, oh, just kidding. And they're like, oh, that's hilarious. Let's go back and do it. And I was like, yeah. No, they were really cool. And I jumped on there, and there was like 110 people playing Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate on Wii U. Like, it showed everybody in all the lobbies, and I tried to just find, and there was a bunch of them that were full, and I found one that only had one person on there. Grigory with an I was the one it was their room. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with me on that. But yeah, it was really cool. We went through, and we got to the urgent mission, and we all got killed, and we failed. We didn't make it through the urgent mission. And I was like, I'm gonna try it again. And then the person who had the room was like, I gotta go. And I was like, all right, well, I'll go too. And then I tried to do Dr. Luigi, and nobody was on for that, so I couldn't get it online, because I don't think I ever played that game online. That was during the Year of Luigi, and it says like, let's celebrate Year of Luigi when you boot it up, so it reminds you of how that was like one of Nintendo's worst years, and I think the actor who played Luigi in the cartoon show died that year also. The live actor did, so it was like the Year of Luigi was not the year we thought it would be. But I remember that particularly, yeah, the live action actor dying. Yeah, it was something to see it go down. And I jumped on Mario Kart 7, and I was watching Game Explain's stream on my phone. I was playing it in here, and they were playing Mario Kart 7, but I just did like regular matches. But it was cool, because I was just like, I was getting first places like left and right on everything, and we were playing the ones that we'll never see, the Woohoo Island races that are like my favorites, that we never got to see on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I don't know why they didn't bring those in there. And it was just, yeah, it was solid. I was playing it with the 3D all the way up to max, in the zone there. But yeah, I get to see the last of the 3DS. And then I played a little bit of Smash Brothers 3DS as well, which I think my hands were kind of killing me after that. I tried playing, what was it? I tried playing Kid Icarus Uprising. That game is hard as fuck to play. Like, it has an online mode, but I can't even, like, I don't know how to play that game. Please re-release that as a dual stick third-person shooter game, like, so we have proper controls. Like, it never works right at all. But yeah, I got to see the sunset of the Wii U and the 3DS, and made me a little sad, because, especially, I mean, obviously I love the Wii U, but the 3DS had like so many things, and then I found out later like there were all these extra things I could have done that I forgot about doing or whatever, and not even to mention like Animal Crossing New Leaf, like the Dream Studio where you could go to sleep and go to other people's. You can't do that anymore because that was internet based, or like I think some of the Street Pass stuff doesn't work anymore as well. Like, I really hope that like since all this stuff is going down, that Nintendo is going to bring it back in some way in like Switch 2 or whatever, And I saw we're probably not going to get the news at all because we're going, because we got too much to talk about this episode. But it was a Chicken Wiggle, which was a 3DS game, which you saw. It's like a running joke on the NVC Facebook or whatever. They're actually taking, because I guess you could do you could do like player created levels in Chicken Wiggle, and they're actually moving those levels onto Hatch Tales, which is their next game that's coming out for Switch. And I was like, I saw that, and I was like, there it is, Nintendo, you next. Put all the Mario Maker 1 stuff to Mario Maker 2. Like, let
Chicken Wiggle can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, let Pink Yoshi and the Clown Wizards live. But I downloaded it to my Wii U so I could have it to play. And also, I remember playing this one with you, John. This is actually probably one of my favorite Mario Maker 1 levels of all time. It's like called like something tower, and you can't die. There's just like these platforms with springs on them that'll like push you off of the platforms, and you have to go through like 10 or 11 levels, and it's like a tower that you're climbing. But you can't die, and I downloaded that one because I thought it was a really, really good one, and I wanted to be able to play it without the internet. So there were like some that I downloaded, and like I said, I tried to play some of the new ones. I played a Baby Metal Mario Maker thing, like Baby Metal the band, where you turn into the sprites of the band, and with like recorded voices of them in there. It's like Mario Maker 1 was really fucking cool. Like I found I found like a level that Jess made, like that has a message in there, like that they put in there, or like I recorded myself making dumb noises in there. I recorded that on there too. It's just, yeah, Mario Maker 1 was awesome.
I remember making a level when Nintendo announced their new president, where it was just coins spelling out The new president of Nintendo is, and it's whoever it was that was just like the interim president.
Oh yeah. No, I remember that. I thought it was for. No, it was. I guess it wasn't. It would have been. It would have been post Iwata, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I looked at. I looked at a lot of your levels, but the one I did was Pink Yoshi, because that was kind of the one that was, was the one that was important and all that. But yeah, Wii U, 3DS, we salute you. Your internet is gone. But I guess there is somebody did make like a thing called Pretendo that you can use with Wii U, but you don't have to hack your system. So maybe I'll try that. But I don't want to hack. I don't want to necessarily hack my 3DS or Wii U or whatever. But maybe I'll try getting on the Pretendo thing. But I'm like, I don't think those Monster Hunter guys are.
Wait, what are they going to do?
Blacklist be there.
You?
Like, I don't think the Monster Hunter people that I had a great time with are going to still be there. I don't know. But oh yeah, and Monster Hunter 3 underwater combat. I never really understood it until I finally got it for a second, and it's pretty rad. I hope we see it again in later Monster Hunters, because that was a big thing about the Wii one, was that you could fight sea monsters. And you fight them like underwater. And it's actually way more easy than you think. You just basically kind of like aim your camera down and you swim down, and you aim up and you swim up. And that's all it is. And then you just fight them underwater. And I'd forgot that I made like a light bowgun person, because that's what I did on Rise. And because it's like a Wii or 3DS game or whatever, you can aim, but it's really weird. Like you have to aim with like the control pad and all that. And it's just like, it took a minute, but I figured it out. But it's still kind of cool, and it makes me want to get like Monster Hunter Generations. I know it's on Switch, but it goes on sale all the time. But whenever it's on sale for like $8, I'll pick it up. And just because it was fun to play those old school Monster Hunter games, like pre-Rise ones, where it loads when you go to like every section and all that. Now that I actually understand what Monster Hunter is, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to go back to those old ones. I could, but I don't play my PS4. I wanted an old school one that's like 3. So
gotcha.
Generations was a 3DS game also, and now the only way you can play it is on Switch. So maybe I'll get it, because it is on sale. Like I've seen it for $7.99 before. Like if I see that again, I'm just gonna go for it and try it out, because I know there's probably still online on there.
Wilds is next year.
Yeah. Well, that's what they said. When we were all kind of leaving, they're like, "We'll see you. Hopefully, we'll see you again on Wilds." All the Monster Hunter people I played with were saying that. Like, hope we all see you on Wilds, and
that'll be Switch too.
I would think, right? Because Rise was made for Switch, and that was the one that brought me to Monster Hunter and all that. But yeah, but I kind of, while you were gone, Jeremy, just because work's been kind of slow, I kind of got on like beat a game a week. Actually, I've been doing it for like 4 weeks now. But my game I beat this week was F-Zero Maximum Velocity. That game is really good. I didn't know about it until now. It took me like 20 years, but I finally figured out that it's a badass game. I saw credits on F-Zero. Like, how do you do that? Well, you have to go through a lot of shit to unlock the master level, and once you beat a master level, then you get credits. That's how you find it. But no, there's all this different shit that I never did, because I remember playing the game when it came out, and I guess it didn't play exactly like the Super Nintendo game, so I was like, this isn't the same. But let me tell you this. F-Zero Maximum Velocity will make you better at F-Zero 99. If you watch the little videos that it's playing back there on my TV, if you watch the way it tells you how to race in maximum velocity, and you do the same thing on F-Zero 99, you will do better. That's what I did. First time I played it, I went to 99. Actually, they added a bunch of new levels. Well, mirror modes. We talked about it last week, but F-Zero 99 is still awesome. But basically, maximum velocity, instead of like braking like I would normally do in the Super Nintendo one, you more like tap the gas to turn on stuff, and you get little boosts for it. And that same mechanic is integrated in F-Zero 99. So, but I realized I unlocked the Queen Cup, which is a whole bunch of crazy new races. There's like some stuff where you drive onto this little circle, and it like flips you around, like in maximum velocity. So you'd be driving straight, and it makes you go like way left or way right, which is annoying as fuck. But there's a lot of really, really cool levels in there. And I unlocked Captain Falcon, and I think I unlocked Samurai Goro as well. You can unlock some of the original racers, even though they're not there to begin with. And you basically, I think in order to get Queen, you have to beat every difficulty. So there's like beginner, standard, and expert. And once you do all of those, then you get the Queen Cup. and you just have to beat one Queen Cup to get some of the other racers. I unlocked like 3 racers. There's one racer where you have to beat every single cup on every single difficulty with every single race car. I'm not doing that. That's hard as fuck. Or you beat 255 of the there's like time attack courses where you have to beat a certain time. If you beat 255 of those, you get that cart. But yeah, play Maximum Velocity. It's available. It'll get you better at 99. And the other thing that was really awesome that happened this week is that Prince of Persia was brought back from the dead for me. I heard there was a update for Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, and I was like, I'll do my normal thing where I'll try it out and see that it doesn't work. And I tried it out, and it loaded. It loaded my bricked save that was bricked from so long ago.
That's awesome.
So now I can play Prince of Persia again. And let me tell you, that game is great. It's a shame that I took so long to play, but it's really, really good. If you want to play one of the best Metroidvanias of all time, play that game. It's really fucking good.
It's that good, huh?
Oh, it's amazing. It was on sale.
So them fixing the game made you like it.
Well, I was mad about my save getting bricked, but I never disliked it necessarily. I just didn't want to start from the beginning again.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. Like I loaded it up, and it loaded me up to a boss that I'd never seen before. That's probably a later boss, and he just killed me. And then I got brought back to the save that I was at before that.
Interesting.
So then it brought me back to where I was. But they fixed it. I didn't think they ever would, but they did. And now I can play the game again, and it's fun to play. So
I'm really happy for you. That did not seem like it was going to happen. It seemed like maybe they'd fix the bug, but you'd still have to reboot it or whatever.
I was surprised that somehow they fixed my brick save, which I was never able to tell them about completely.
You should write them a message about it.
Well, I mean, I tried writing them, and they kept responding to me in some AI bullshit, and I'm like, can I talk to a person? But I never had enough. It was like John reconnecting your systems. It's the same thing. It's like I don't want to take the time to call Ubisoft. I'd rather just rant about it on a podcast that maybe 20 people listen to. That's the way to do it. But anyway, that's what I have for the week, I guess. I was like, I'd put Jereme at the front so I can just speed run through my stuff. Oh yeah, and Kudzu is awesome. And thanks, Chris, for being on the show. And you should play Kudzu, Jereme. It's only $5.
I'm going
you
to.
love Game Boy.
And I feel kind of bad that I didn't at least give it a look because I thought it wasn't out yet. But right before the show started, I was like, is it hot? Oh shit. It's because I was looking at the press kit and it said it's released. I was like, oh shit. But I literally got home like last night.
Yeah, no, you've been here I'm sure you got some time to try to.
And I had to go right back to work this morning. So I was home for a couple hours before we recorded. And I played a little bit of F-Zero, but not enough to really have an impression of it.
Maximum Velocity. Yeah, that was an idea that I had for.
That happened while I was gone.
That was an idea I had for a nickname. I was going to call myself, Maximum Velocity is Maximum Fun or something like that. But no, it's really good. This is my Game Boy Advance version playing back here. I just booted up to see what I did, and I didn't do anything. All I did was beat the levels on the easiest level, and that's it. But I didn't know about all the unlockables. But yeah, it's really cool. It's a fun game. I had a blast with it. The Wind Walker is my favorite racer. That's the one to play as. Not Wind Waker, Wind Walker. Just add an L, and there you go. It's a Wind Walker.
I guess I did forget to mention that I did play some Dredge last night. I was kind of sleepy, but I wanted to play some video games. I played Dredge for about an hour, and I'm really getting into it.
Yeah, I saw you on there
for a
second.
Into some news that I wanted to mention. There is a Dredge movie coming that's been announced this week.
Yeah, I saw that. That kind of blew me away. I was like, really? I was like, well, it could be a good horror movie, I guess. And Dredge is like an indie game. You don't see a whole lot of movies come from indie games, So
this is from one of the producers of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
Yeah, and didn't they also say that this is the year of Shadow the Hedgehog? I saw that being a thing too, because it's
going to be in Sonic 3, I guess.
Yeah, in Sonic 3. Well, if it is truly the year of Shadow the Hedgehog, then please re-release that Game Boy game or the GameCube game in some capacity, so we can.
The werewolf one?
No,
the one where he's got the guns.
No, Shadow the Hedgehog was a GameCube game. The werewolf one was a Wii game. That was Sonic Unleashed.
Oh.
But no, Shadow the Hedgehog, was just about Shadow, and you have guns in it. And apparently it's awful and amazing at the same time, depending on who you talk to. But yeah,
You got to give him some guns in the movie.
It's awfully amazing.
yeah, people really like that game. I mean, I hear it's terrible, but I mean that's most Sonic games, right? You either hate it or love it.
I think there's 2 anniversaries worth mentioning. One is that the DSi has turned 15 years old as of April 5th.
That was
Anybody have a
Nintendo's first
DSi?
eShop, right? No, the Wii Shop was out before that.
The DSi? Oh yeah, was it?
But it was the first
Portable
mobile
eShop.
eShop, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I never owned a DSi. The reason
I own one,
yeah.
but it doesn't read cartridges.
Oh yeah, I never got one. The main reason I didn't get a DSi is because I didn't want to have a DS that didn't have the Game Boy part on the bottom, and the DSi got rid of that.
Oh, right. Forgot.
But the DSi has a camera, and you can do fun camera stuff with
But
it.
you know what you can't do with it? You can't play Guitar Hero. And Guitar Hero
Sure.
was awesome on DS, so fuck the DSi. No, I mean that was the main reason I didn't want to get it, because I really liked the DS Guitar Hero. Because it was like
I will
so fun
say,
to be
as a,
like,
like, as
dee-dee-dee-dee, little tiny.
as the like apex of the DS design or whatever before it like switched to 3DS, the DSi was actually a pretty slick piece of hardware. It looks really nice. Like it's a super premium looking and feeling, like maybe even more so than the 3DS. Like it's so nice. I wish mine worked right. I have 2 of them. I have a DSi XL as well, but neither one of them read cards.
I did I did buy a bunch of DSi games for my 3DS because you could buy them through the eShop. So I do have some. There's like a Dragon Quest tactics game that's on there, and like the WarioWare the picture game which I never really played, but yeah, there was some stuff that I bought on there that was on DSi, and you could buy those. Was it the art games?
Yeah,
Whatever they're
the
called?
art
Yeah, those,
art design, or I don't know. They had a special. They were
Art
like a
Academy, I
series.
think.
Art Academy, yeah.
No. Art Academy was the one where you drew stuff. I'm talking.
No, it was
about,
like
I'm
a
talking
series
about
of games.
Yeah, it was called Orbit or Moon or something like that. No, it wasn't Moon, but it was a Wii game. It was really good.
The Orbit game was really cool. I know what you're talking about. It's like you were like moving along different planets.
Yeah.
Kinda like Game
You would
Gear and
say
shit like
it's Orbiant. That's what it's called. Orbiant. I love that game. Yeah, it was. But it was. It wasn't Art Academy. Art Style. They were called Art Style.
Art style.
Because the Art Academy games were the ones where you drew stuff, where you used a pen to draw like pictures of Pikachu or whatever. This Art Style was the ones where, but there were a bunch of those that were on DSi, and that was the main.
They're
reason that I
essentially
did
like
wanna get that.
really artistically minimalistic games.
Yeah, they're really cool. Like there's a racing game, and there's like a Tetris style one that's like little pixel heads or whatever. But Orbiant was the one that I liked the most on Wii. But yeah, the other big anniversary, which I missed last week, but I guess it wouldn't, it would make more sense to say it now because Jereme wasn't here last week, was Final Fantasy VI, 30 years old as of last week. Can you believe it?
Of April 4th.
Yeah.
And I bought another copy of it.
Yeah, and Jereme
What
just
day
bought
did
another
you buy
copy
it
of
on? Did you buy it on the anniversary?
Yeah. It was like April 3rd or something, right?
April 4th.
4th, yeah.
I don't have it on me now, but another thing I bought because I went to GameStop, and I had been given a gift card this past Christmas for $25 for GameStop. And I never go to GameStop, but like it just happened to be next to the grocery store we were going to, and I think it was in Sedona. But so we went to that GameStop, and they had a bunch of stuff on clearance. So I ended up buying I got a t-shirt and a hat, and I only owed like 30 something cents like afterwards. Like it was silly. But I got a really ridiculous Dragon Ball Z hat because I wanted some Toriyama art like that I could wear. And I wish I had it. It's a Cell Saga hat. I mean, it's downstairs somewhere, or I think it's actually still in the van, but it's just ridiculous. Every square inch of the hat is covered in like the Cell Saga art. So all the androids are on there. It's obviously Cell and Goku in a Super Saiyan form, or was it Gohan? I can't remember. And then all that shit's on there. It's really cool. And I think it was on clearance for like, I want to say like $9 or something like that. And then the t-shirt was like 12. And I don't know. I'm not doing the math right, but those two things together were 25, 30 something. And so I thought that was pretty cool. So I've got a Wario shirt now that I plan on wearing soon. And then that Dragon Ball Z hat is just ridiculous. I'll wear it sometime, but it's so gaudy. I love it.
The Final Fantasy VI was released on the 2nd, April 2nd. It was when it came out. So it was the day. So when we recorded, right? Or no, I guess we recorded on the 3rd, but of last week. But yeah, it was the day after April Fool's Day was the original release of the greatest RPG of all time, Final Fantasy VI. So
Easily.
So there you go. Yeah, no, it was the one that made me fall in love with RPGs. Was that one?
I mean, I think I like Chrono Trigger better, but as far as like getting a design like perfect with systems and stuff, I think 6 was better in that regard.
I mean, you played that before Chrono Trigger, right?
I did.
Probably,
I'm saying as far as like the
yeah.
customization of your characters and like how much freedom you have with how you want to build your party and stuff, like that's a wonderful game. Anyone can understand the systems, like they're really well laid out. They're not too like crazy. There's not these weird skill trees or anything like that. Like they just make sense.
Yeah, I used to make everybody play that game whenever people would come to my house. I'd be like, try out this game. And, you know, because I'd let them play like the first hour or whatever and be like, you have to see this. It's really, really cool. And I remember a friend of mine was like, this is great. You just got to press A and you get through everything. Which
then you find out that everybody has last names at the end. It's so cool.
Well, except for that one, the Gru guy. You can't attack them. But yeah, no, I think we're at the end here. But yeah, Final Fantasy VI. Love that game. 30 years. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I know, it's 94. We're going to see a lot of really, really cool anniversaries because 1994 was a great year for Super Nintendo, which is one of the best systems of all time. So there you go.
And it was a opening year of PlayStation.
Yeah. I mean, what do they have in their first year? Twisted Metal 1? No, I don't know. I don't know what came out in 94.
Jumpin' Jack Flash.
I was actually, complete side note, on Peacock, if you have Peacock, it's $6 a month. Get it. You can watch all of the old WCW, all the old WCW Nitros, and I was watching 96 WCW, and it was like, this replay is sponsored by PlayStation, and it's like, it's hilarious, just like the old, whatever. It's fun. I'm gonna watch a ton of those. There's a bunch of ECW stuff on there too. But yeah, that's been our show. Thanks everybody for listening, and thanks so much again, Chris, for coming on. Check out Kudzu. Like I said, super cheap. It's really cool. I've really been enjoying it. I'm playing through this one, and I didn't mention it when Chris was here, but a lot of these 8-bit legit games that we get, a lot of them is about like, you know, old school NES hard. So like, this is maybe the second one that we've gotten a code for that has an actual save system in it. So I was very happy to have that. I mean, I think the only other one was Full Quiet that you could actually save on. The rest of them are all just like, beat it in one sitting. And I like that this one doesn't. There's saves everywhere. And when you get to buy the maps and you get to buy the ability to see different icons on the map, it shows you where the saves are. And it's really important. Save like crazy because you can die like that, you know, if you're not paying attention. So yeah. If you want to play through it, just make sure you save all the time. That's what I mean.
I'm definitely excited to play it, having talked to the developer and knowing their perspective and their like approach and their background. Like that was a really good interview.
Oh, yeah,
not just like interview. Not just how games are made, but like how they can like coalesce from other experiences. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it was. It's always best when, you know, whoever you interview will just. You don't have to say that much; they'll just talk. But yeah, he had a lot of really, really great stories, and I'm really excited to see what comes from Little Nemo and all that. Like,
Me too.
It's very, very cool. So check that out, and also, you know, check us out at patreon.com/NintendoMain podcast. You know, for $5, you can see videos of us early, or you could get WART radio and the expansion pack episodes and all that stuff, and lots of extra shit on there. I think we almost got like 60 plus or whatever. That's all on the Patreon. So if you want to support us, go there. Patreon.com/NintendoMain podcast. And you can also find us on Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever. At Nintendo_domain on Twitter and at JMaxStack on Twitter, and just look up NintendoMain on Blue Sky. You can find us there. And if you want to see the video of me playing the Wii U on the last day of it, you can go to youtube.com/NintendoMain podcast. You can find our Wrestle Chat videos there as well. Jamie Hayter just got added to AEW Fight Forever today. I haven't had time to play it yet, but I'm sure I'll be playing it later tonight or something. So you can see that there. But yeah, that's been our episode 417. Thanks everybody for listening. We've been your hosts. I'm Trey Johnson.
Jeremy Mikowski.
John Knitter.
And thanks for listening. See you next time.
See ya.
Finally got one of those. Been a long time.